This is the D6 generation with your hosts, Craig Gallant.
No, cut that. Keep that. Someday it's going to be worth something.
Russ Wakelin.
You put me in an ATST with frickin' Wookiees attacking me and whatnot?
Now you're talking. And the Gen Con mob in the third chair. With contributions from Total Fangirl
Vampires do not sparkle.
and our loyal listeners.
Crazy? That's like 400 hours of gamer nonsense.
Welcome to another edition of Rapid Fire, the roundtable discussion of all things gaming. Coming at the speed of a 2005 Honda CR-V, desperately pulling up at Logan Airport to get a forgotten cell phone to a panicky podcast host.
What?
Today's edition is brought to you by all of our friends over at Patreon, of course, but today's show, for special, is brought to you by everyone who took time out of their busy Gen Con schedule and decided not to go see They Might Be Giants, and
Right.
instead come with us, and that would be the D6G mob.
Awesome mob today.
I'm Geekly. It is not your turn to talk, sir. I'm Geekly McGurran, your host today. Our panelists are Russ, Wayfarer Wakelin,
What?
Total Fangirl Nicole, Wanderer Wakelin, and the awe-inspiring hypermobile Gen Con mob.
Nice. Good
Let's
job.
begin. Issue number 1. My mouse is not on.
Wrong. Of course, they're the computer.
That's a lie, sir. Issue number 1. Whether through explosive exclamations and subdued conversations, t-shirt coloration, iconic speech patterns, and perhaps personal hygiene issues, you can make a pretty good guess with a decent chance of success of identifying gamers in a non-gamer environment, like an airport. Gamers in particular can be quite adept at this identification. Question: when a group of black t-shirted men of a certain age moved to board a plane bound for Indianapolis on Wednesday morning from Boston, and one of them handed a boarding pass that didn't match his ID to the gate agent, what did he say with a straight face? Reluctant Russ.
Guess I rolled a 1 on my dexterity check.
Neutral Nicole.
I'm getting on that plane one way or the other.
Marginal Mob. I heard them all, and they were all wrong. You don't think I'm a Cylon, do you?
That's not bad.
Really?
Not bad.
Issue number 2. Gen Con has been going strong now since 1967. From its humble beginnings in Wisconsin to the mecca of the gaming community that Indianapolis has been today, the best 4 days in gaming has grown by leaps and bounds to become a beacon of how-to for gaming conventions around the world. Truly, a half-century is a long time, but it seems like Gen Con is just getting started. Question: what group, founded in 1967, hosted a series of gaming conventions that year that a small group of members living near Chicago could not attend, thus inspiring them to throw a small convention of their own at the home of the great Gary Gygax? Roba Russ.
I'm going to say the League of Chainmail Warriors.
Nonchalant Gnomes Nicole.
The League of Extraordinary Gentlemen.
Ooh, that's good.
It's just cross-pollination.
Do say
Green
what I
Mountain
want.
Mob.
That's pretty good.
I heard a bunch.
I did too.
We're just going to say wrong because, the International Federation of Wargaming.
Oh.
Did anybody actually say that one? No?
IFW. Well played.
There's a song there.
There is.
Issue number 3. It goes without saying that Gen Con has a lot to offer almost any gamer the world over. Whether you would be braving the late summer rains of the great American plains for the vendor hall, to meet friends from around the world to play the newest games, meet the luminaries of the gaming world, or us, or 1,000 other draws, you feel the pull no matter where you might be. Question: how do you know the draw of Gen Con has become too powerful and overcome your common sense? Rooter Russ.
You're waking up at 4 in the morning after staying up at 1.
Inured Nicole.
You're just not sleeping at all.
Monomaniac Mob. Oh, there's some very disturbing responses. But I'm going to say, impossible! How can you put a price on friendship, happiness, and the sheer joy of life? In 100 years, will you remember you ate ramen for a month in 2017? No! But you will keep the memories you made at Gen Con for a lifetime. Or until hunger wipes them from your brain. Anyway, I don't know. Maybe we should rethink this one. Issue number 4. Doing any sort of work on an airplane, you always take the chance that someone around you will get overly curious as to what you're doing and start paying more attention to what's on your screen than what's on theirs. For instance, if you're putting down notes for a silly little news show spoof that starts a marginally popular gaming podcast, do you really want someone reading over your shoulder? Question. Upon realizing that you are being scrutinized, let's say you're a little short on patience, let's say you type out issue number 4, reading over strangers' shoulders, what would happen next? Would was?
The person will say you misspelled shoulder.
Nervy Nicole.
The person quickly gets up for the restroom.
Maladroit Mob. I would give credit on this one. I didn't hear the answer. He laughed. He just laughed. Like, oh, you got me. So we talked about games for the rest of the flight. What else are you going to do? That's it for now. Thanks for listening, and good night.
This episode of the D6 Generation is brought to you by Lone Wolf Development. Take your game to the next level.
And by Geek Nation Tours. Rise up and join the Geek Nation, touring the world at geeknationtours.com.
And by Audible. Try the service, get a free book, and support the show. All by visiting audibletrial.com/D6G.
Hello.
Hello.
Hey, welcome to episode 219
220.
20.
That's right, Russ.
Oh, my goodness.
220.
of the D6
Nice,
Generation.
nice improv, though.
There you
That was
go.
Very, very
I'm
impressive.
Russ Wakeland,
I'm Craig Gallant.
I'm Nicole Wakeland.
and this is the Gen Con Mob. A
lot of
awesome
energy.
mob.
A lot of energy this
great,
year.
Great
This
crowd
is awesome.
tonight at Gen Con. The 50th Gen Con ever. Pretty exciting.
Ever.
Ever. Right.
Not sure about the grammar of that sentence. But let's go with it.
We're excited to have Nicole here and the whole mob here tonight. So on tonight's episode, we're, of course, going to have Achievements in Gaming with the Gen Con mob here telling us all the cool hotness they've seen after day one at Gen Con. Right, Craig?
Yes.
Then we're going to jump into, Play by Mob. So we're going to see how that goes.
Yes.
But first, we got to do Achievements in Gaming. Before we get to all that, Craig,
Yes.
let's say someone wanted to listen to all of our fine lost chapters.
Oh, indeed.
What would they do to hear that?
They would go to our website, thed6generation.com, and they would click on the Patreon link, which can be found on the right-hand margin, which will immediately take them to the Patreon page, which then there has a video where these people all know why we tell you don't go watch the video.
Right. Too late.
How many of you have seen the video?
A lot of hands up there.
It's radio, folks. Raised hands don't translate.
All right, you
How
gotta
many of
applaud.
you have seen the video? It's
There you
terrifying. That's why there's
Hey.
some twitching. There's
Right, a little bit of,
eyes.
yeah, it's very awkward.
Anyway, so that would be a good way to do it.
So thank you for supporting the show for all our patrons out there. Really appreciate it. But tonight, since we have...
You make this wackiness actually happen.
You
This is
really
your fault.
do. This is
actually.
all your fault. So tonight we're going to do a special edition of Achievements. We're going to go through the normal 3 parts of Achievements, but instead of just Craig and myself and Nicole telling you what we enjoy, we're actually going to go to you, the mob, and ask you. And so Nicole's going to go out. I said Nicole.
I know you're being very careful.
I'm working on
John.
this time. And Nicole would be so kind to go to the crowd and
Yeah.
give a mic when it's their turn. Okay,
I will.
excellent. Are we ready? Does it make sense, crowd? Be with us here on this. Excellent. All right, here we go. So let's start off with Craig. What have you noticed this time in RPGs, board games, card games, miniature games?
The
Let's
games.
keep miniatures out. Yeah, what do you see at Gen Con you like so much?
Keep miniatures out?
Well, we'll do them in modeling because we don't really have a modeling per
Okay.
se.
I don't know.
so-
I went up to my room. I was doing some paint. No.
All right,
Okay.
fair.
I didn't. Well, in this, I don't know. There's the 40K RPG that just got announced the other day. That's exciting because our friend Ross Watson is going to be in charge. So that was awesome.
That's exciting.
I went and I talked to him. Yeah, there you go. Well
Nice.
deserved.
Ross will like that.
How many of you are going to his event on Saturday? I know a couple people said they were, and now they're not admitting it. Okay.
We got one.
I don't know when or where it is.
Have to check the
Sorry,
program.
Ross. You got to check the program. Do some of your own homework. He is doing a question and answer, and he's going to answer everything, and he refused to even talk to me on a casual basis with any of the details. So I'm excited. There's a couple things you can find on Twitter and Facebook. I believe he said it was a D6 pool system. He told me it's going to draw from a lot of the games that he loves and that he's worked on, including a lot of Savage World stuff. And he has not worked on anything that I haven't enjoyed. Although I did find the engine for the 40K RPG kind of clunky, and that's completely gone. It's going to be all new stuff. So that was exciting. That's about it for me for RPGs. I wandered a lot today, and my head was in other places. What about you guys?
Well, I didn't see an RPG. Like, can I talk about a board game myself?
Sure, yeah, board games, card games.
Miniature games weren't allowed. So
Yes, miniature games are later.
Okay. All right. So there's a new Firefly board game, and I can't remember exactly what the title was. but it's the
Firefly
Gale Force
Adventures.
My Adventures.
Yeah.
Okay. The
Brigands
Gale
in
Force
brown
9.
coats. Would
Yeah.
It's really cool.
Subtitle.
And if you go,
Gale Force 9.
Force 9.
And if you go by their booth, they have some of the minis in a case that you can't actually touch, but one of them is a naked Mal sitting on a stone. That's one of the minis.
Naked
That's
Mal,
part
the
of game.
miniature.
This amused
And
the
my
heck out of
wife
me.
tweets. She takes a picture and she tweets it, and it says she puts at Nathan Fillion there, and she puts in the tweet, "I can't tell if it's anatomically correct."
You couldn't tell.
Because he's seated in a very tasteful pose.
he's very careful.
It's very just like the show, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
I forgot that. That looks
I'm
awesome.
excited
Actually,
about
Russ
that.
and I did a full demo of
We
it.
did get to
Right.
play the demo.
And really enjoyed it. Anybody who's a fan of the Firefly board game that they already did, it uses a lot of the same iconography and a lot of the same sort of peripheral mechanics, so that they actually said if you want to spend a whole weekend playing, you can play the board game, and then every time there's one of the crimes that you're supposed to commit, you can actually substitute in a game of Firefly Adventures.
So they connect.
So
Cool.
So they can connect.
So now there's air and ground.
Yeah.
Right.
Because you can earn money and all kinds of so that's
I can't wait
excellent
to play that.
addition.
Yeah,
No,
I
I-
like
That's
that.
cool.
That was
That's the
that's
fact
the
that it's
thing
not
made me
available
happy.
right now actually
I know,
kind of broke
he said
me
it's like
for today.
October or something. It's a ways off.
Not that well.
Late September, early
Late
October.
September,
they
Yes.
said,
Yep.
Yeah.
Anything else from you?
No, that was my big
So-
that was a big
I'll
one.
mention this one because you're excited about this too. So at the Gale Force 9 booth, I also saw the Doctor Who game.
Oh,
Have you
yeah.
guys seen this one? So you
There's
get
little mini Daleks.
well, they solved the problem of no one wants to play anybody besides the Doctor. So in this game, you can play different incarnations of the Doctor. So it's a semi-co-op where you're fighting Daleks. If the Daleks win, all the Doctors lose, but it's actually the first incarnation to get the Gallifrey is the winning Doctor. But my favorite mechanic is if you die as the Doctor, you're not out of the game. You just regenerate as the next Doctor in the series, which is pretty cool. And if there's someone else is already, if you're playing Doctor 5 and someone else is 6, you just hop up to 7, which is pretty cool. So it's a neat looking mechanic. The miniatures, there's a little K9 in there. There's a Tom Baker Doctor. There's a Matt Smith Doctor. There's little Dalek miniatures. There's little TARDISes.
TARDISes.
It looks really cool.
Would that be Tardai?
Tardai, yes. Tardai. So I think we should go to the mob now and find out what kind of miniatures, card miniatures, card games, board games, and RPGs. We'll do miniatures in a minute. They're playing out there. So Nicole's got a microphone. She's going to come find you.
first.
Don't forget to kiss the mic.
Oh, don't worry.
There was a game called Magic Maze. It's a co-op game where you have to work together and you have to try and find your way out of the maze, but you can't talk at all or communicate.
That's cool.
Very cool.
Sounds like a good one.
Sorry.
Mm.
Very nice. Oh, yes. Since you spoke, why don't you come up and pick out a prize?
All right.
Anything from the table.
So
Or
my
off
turn.
the
Okay.
table.
So I tried out Giga Robo, which was on Kickstarter a while back. First time I've actually gotten to play the game, and right now they have they have it all set up where you can go do demos, and the scenery is incredibly good.
That's the one we did at Adepticon.
Yes, we
isn't
did. We liked it, yeah.
That's a
And
nice
it's
looking
got
game.
it's got the player boards that actually you slot your chips into, and it's
nice.
got everything's all modular. You get to pick your pilot and your robot. It is an incredibly good time.
Very cool. Glad you enjoyed it.
Yep. Come on up and pick a prize.
Pick a prize.
Oh, now there's all these hands.
See, that's how you give away stuff and people start volunteering. It's amazing how that works.
Amazing.
I tried out Dragon Fire, and it was really fun because they added the mechanic of co-op and deck builder and dungeon crawling all together.
And
Excellent.
it looks awesome. We actually went and watched that.
We did.
Very nice. Come on up and get a prize.
There was a board game, tabletop game, Tanks.
Oh, yes.
Oh,
Played,
yes.
Gale Force 9, another one, yeah.
Flames of War, and it is 2-player. It's really fun. It's kind of like Star Wars X-Wing and upgrades, and it's really
Cool.
fun to play.
Very
That
nice.
sounds awesome.
Very
Come on
nice.
up and get a
Get a prize.
At the Ninja Division booth, they have Super Dungeon Explorer Arena.
Yeah.
Which I have like all of the Super Dungeon Explorer stuff up to now, all painted up, but it just takes so long to play. We don't get it out enough, even though my kids love it. They love the art style. So this is a nice way to get a quick game in and get those miniatures out more because it can play in like an hour.
Nice.
Oh, nice. Come and get a prize.
Okay, so we picked up a game called Light Seekers.
Ooh.
Okay.
The best way I could describe this is Skylanders meets Magic. So there's 5 colors, and you have heroes. The really cool mechanic, though, is they've got an app. And then when you point the camera at the cards, they pop out. They pop out of onto your camera.
Well, that's cool.
That was pretty cool.
That sounds very
when
cool.
you buy it, they give you like a little thing, and it'll like work with the app and just follows you around in the app. Apparently, and it looks super cute.
Well, that's cool.
That sounds awesome. One of you, and you have to decide between yourselves, comes up and gets a prize.
Okay, I'm going to turn to RPGs.
Okay, fair enough.
Good.
I was looking at Tales from the Loop.
She had her eyes on that one.
Which is a really beautiful RPG. I haven't played RPGs in years and years, but that artwork, that world is so enticing.
Awesome.
Nice.
Awesome.
Very cool.
Come and get a prize.
So I didn't get that much time.
Kiss
Hello.
the mic.
Hello.
There
Wow.
you go.
Okay, so I didn't get that much time on the floor today, but I was able to awkwardly shadow over the Dead of Winter Flick 'em Up crossover game.
Oh, nice.
Oh, yeah.
That game is weird. like it's such like friendly cartoon like caricatures of this like really depressing and dark game. Like it's just so weird. Like I don't know. I just had a lot of fun just, like watching it and just seeing how that game goes together.
Awesome. Come get a prize.
Guy with the bird in his shoulder.
Yeah, a shoulder friend. So nobody has mentioned Starfinder yet.
Ooh, excellent
So,
choice. I got a shirt from Scotty's, the Starfinder shirt.
Yeah, the Blood Orange IPA, the Ghost or the Star Goblin.
Yeah.
But Paizo's new RPG, Starfinder, Pathfinder in Space.
Yeah.
Kind of a Spelljammer-esque thing.
Nothing wrong with that.
No. I actually heard this intrigued me. It's not just Pathfinder, the system in space. It's actually the Pathfinder world in the far future. So it's got all the same races, and so that sounded like a really cool.
So one more for this category, and then move on.
We haven't done any card games yet, so I'm going to do 2. If you go into Hall E, anybody who's here, there's a wrestling card game based on the WWE, WWF, whatever the hell it's called these days, called Super Show. It's utterly random. There's minimal skill involved, but it's an absolute bust. I learned it over lunch today, and I played in a tournament this afternoon.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
It's so easy to learn. It's an absolute riot. And then right before the dealer hall closed, we went and tried a game called, I've got it in my bag here, so I'm touching it. It's called Campy Creatures. It's Hammer Horror, Schlock. So it's just a little $20 card game. It's right up at the top of the exhibitor's alley or entrepreneur's alley.
Yep.
And it's really, really good. We just fell in love with it immediately. Everyone in my group bought a copy straight away,
nice.
right there.
Awesome.
All right. Well, let's move on to miniature games now.
Okay,
Craig.
now miniatures games.
So now this is one I know you've been doing a lot of miniature gaming.
Yes.
So why don't you highlight one of the ones you like today, and we'll move on to the crowd here.
We ran through and did a lot. I'm going to be self-serving here, and I'm going to tell you that Russ and I actually demoed the new Wild West Exodus and really enjoyed it.
Never heard of it.
It was never. I stood up for you, Nicole. Without me, he would have forgotten you were here.
Yeah, but I have the car keys, so as long as
I wasn't going far.
So I really enjoyed that. That booth is crazy. It's off the hook.
It's really nice.
It's really kind of all enveloping, and the system was fast and fun and fresh. So we really enjoyed that. What about you, Russell?
Well, there's a lot of good-looking miniature games out there this time around. I was trying to get into the Fantasy Flight booth to pick up the elves for Rune Wars.
Yes.
Because I really want them.
Yeah.
I really like Rune Wars. I don't know if is anybody else a Rune Wars fan yet? Anybody else? A small but determined band. I like it. So hopefully with more factions coming out, they're previewing the undead one or the
Demons.
chaos one.
They're demon blood.
Demon chaos.
Infested barbarians.
Yeah. So I like that. And then also I would, not that I know anything about new miniature games, but I would just say this: make sure you go to the Fantasy Flight stuff tomorrow. Just make sure.
Not that we get any kind of forewarning, but
Just
if you can't go to the Fantasy Flight, the flight report,
right?
Because it's been sold out for months.
Go to the booth
Check
after the flight
booth where they
report.
have all those space holder placards. We
Right.
think there might be something
A
kind
new,
of there.
yes, in that genre.
And stop.
Yes. Okay. All right. Let's go. Nicole, do you have a miniature game you saw today?
don't have a miniature
All right,
game.
let's go to the mob then.
Okay.
Mob, what miniature games you seeing?
War Machine and Hordes, the new Grimskin.
Which one? The skirmish one?
Grimkin.
Oh, the Grimkin faction. Yes. Did you get some?
No.
So my favorite models in the Grimkin line are the little goblins riding hobby horses, but that the heads of the horses are severed actual horse heads from the different factions.
Too much.
Gory, but awesome.
Too much.
Yeah.
This is really craft rather than a game. But I saw a Robo Rally produced in Lego.
Yes.
With about 12-inch squares. And then you played it by programming a phone, and then the pieces moved automatically around the board.
Oh, very cool.
Which, for something just set up in the corner of the hall, seemed absolutely incredible and should have been given more billing.
I walked by as they were finishing that up, and my son is actually at Lego Camp this week.
Yeah.
So I took a long video and I sent it to him, and he sent me, I think, 8 little weird recorded texts that I don't even know how to do. That was a squeeing sound. I don't know. I think he liked it.
There you go. Nice.
But that was awesome looking. Yeah.
All right, so I was in.
Yep, you were good.
I was in the middle of the Q game. Middle of my turn, my dad called me and's like, Warhammer Vengeance. I'm like, are we gonna put together? And then I was like, probably not. About it, and he's like, well, I bought it anyway, so now I get to put together miniatures.
Nice.
There you go.
Very good. 2 more in the miniature realm.
Come on up and
get a prize.
Get a prize.
I got a chance today to try Kingdom Death, which I never thought I'd get a chance to play because of the price tag. But oh my gosh, those miniatures are beautiful, and that game is brutal.
I've heard nothing but great things about the game.
Yeah, it's great, and I mean it's massive and it's dark and it's unforgiving, but it's a great time.
Awesome. Cool. Come up
Excellent.
and get you something.
I hated Kingdom Death.
And there you go.
Well, all right, we got to hear why. Why did you?
Why
wait,
did you
why
hate?
did you hate
What did
Kingdom
you-
Death?
wait, Nicole, wait.
Wait, why
We
did he
want to
hate-
know why he hated
Why did he
it.
hate Kingdom Death?
Anonymous guy who doesn't want to be identified.
That's me. It was extremely inelegant and messy, and the mechanics are just all over.
Oh,
okay.
all right. See, you've never heard a negative thing. Now you've heard a negative
I
thing.
have now heard a negative thing.
All right, no hate.
No
just,
hate.
Just extreme disappointment.
There's
Right.
room in this world for all opinions.
all flavors.
Valid and not. They are cool minis.
I got to try Weird's The Other Side, which is their
You
Malifaux
did.
mass combat system. Just played 2 games. Abyssinians, which are sort of the Wakandans, versus the Burning Man, which are the gribbly creatures that teleport all over the board. Very well balanced when a gun line can handle teleporting gribblies. So it was pretty
Cool.
awesome.
We have been
Definitely a
trying
winner.
to do a demo of that for now 2 cons and failed miserably. We'll try again
Yeah.
tomorrow.
We will. All right, one more miniature game. All right, Nicole is making her way to the other side of the room.
I'm gonna go. Who hasn't talked?
Find a person who's not yet shared their feelings.
So at the Ninja Division booth, they have a series of World War II alternative miniature sculpts called Guts, and they are chibi World War II miniatures for use with historicals, which I find hysterical because most historical miniatures
Chibi historicals
would probably not enjoy someone plopping down on chibi World War II.
That is hilarious.
army. Yeah,
Well, I
It's great.
mean, you've got the Rivet Wars is basically chibi World War
Rivet-
One.
yeah,
right?
pretty
So,
much, yeah, sure.
I mean, is it too soon? Really, World War II is where you draw the line.
Yeah.
Okay, he has a card in his book that reminded me. There was this game, Joan of Arc.
Yes.
Oh.
That had this gigantic dragon. Like the men were this
Yes.
big, and the dragon was huge. It's not out yet. It's a Kickstarter. They're doing
Joan of
it
Arc's
soon,
coming. That game looks
and it looks
awesome.
really cool.
If I may, yeah. So I saw a demo for that. I didn't get to participate, but it's very interesting. There's like storyline as part of the game, so it's like 15 millimeter miniatures, and as you move around, you uncover story elements, and it's versus,
Great.
but it's cooperative story things. It's real cool.
Cool. All right. Let's move on to other. So at Gen Con, the other category moves into, if you went to the art section or any books you got signed or any cosplay or other random convention events you've seen that you thought were pretty cool. Craig, what was some of the cool stuff you saw today in that category?
You go first.
All right, fine. I would say that, this is a tough one. There has been some great cosplay. My favorite cosplay was, as listeners will know, I'm a fan of Gail Carriger's books, which are really Victorian and the Parasol Protectorate. And I saw a Pokemon cosplay, but the woman was dressed as Pikachu, but she had a neat parasol and a beautiful, elegant gown situation, which I thought was pretty cool cosplay. I know, not very manly, but I thought it was pretty cool.
Nobody's judging you.
Thank you. What have you guys seen out there? Nicole, if you want to share any cosplay or anything?
Not at the moment.
All right, not at the moment.
So I don't know if your kids are the same. Like my son's obsessed with this Nikko Katsumi app where you have to hustle these cats to come to your house to hang out.
I've played that.
So my son and my wife are addicted to this. They've spent hundreds of hours, and they have these boxes that have randomly inserted stuffed animals of them. You don't know which one you got, so I guess it's like the app where you don't know which one's going to show up.
I still want one of those.
Does Kit know where that is? There you go.
Yeah, when I was going through, there was this accessory for board games. The gentleman called me over. He showed the full stream of it. It's a wonderful. It's called the Game Folio system. I hadn't heard of it before, and it's going to be my check bag because I'll put all my new board game stuff that I buy here in it, and then put it in the belly.
So, funny story. I backed that Kickstarter, and I have 5 of those things, and I love them. Love the Game Folio. Good stuff.
How many did you get? No.
All right. May have been more than 5.
So my favorite thing today was that Mishi was able to get a picture with a cosplayer of Deadpool, who was unbelievable. So I sent it to our kids abroad, and they were so jealous.
Oh, nice.
There were a lot of Deadpools.
The superhero cosplays really kicked up.
Yeah.
I saw a Spider-Man today that was amazing. He looked right out of the movie. Yeah.
One of the things I saw today was a lady who was dressed as an elven princess who was in a wheelchair. And as someone who's been in a wheelchair recently due to an accident, it was really great to see someone that's celebrating Gen Con and being able to enjoy it. And even though they're in a wheelchair, they're able to say, hey, life's good, things are great, and able to really see it for what it is.
Oh, that's wonderful. That's nice.
Absolutely.
Okay, so I saw this one Minoth cosplay that literally made me jump out of my skin because I didn't realize he was behind me. I can't remember the name of the caster, but if you want to see it, I took a picture. My roommate plays Minoth. Yeah, it was really good. Trios.
So
that's actually a friend of ours from back home.
He lives down the street from us.
Scared the crap out of me because my roommate
He and his wife do amazing cosplay.
And he destroys me.
The name of their group is Polyhedral Cosplay.
Yeah,
and they're on Facebook. You can see they do amazing work. They're really cool.
I saw May from Pokemon Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire. I know it was that version of May because the ribbon was on the front instead of the back.
Awesome.
Nice. All right. We got time for 2 more folks out here.
Okay, I'm going to sound like a little homer, but this is my 4th Gen Con, and
Hey.
I've never been to one of these podcasts, seminars,
All right.
mobcasts, so this is kind of awesome. I got my 3 boys here, and they're all
We'll try not to
interacting.
disappoint.
That's right. It's fun.
I'm glad you enjoyed it.
Thank you.
Halo, nice choice.
Pick 2 prizes. No, just kidding.
Saw a great cosplay today. 4 guys walking around from Spaceballs, full white
Yep.
clothing, the big white helmets, and then they were posing for pictures. Doing the,
The wave thing. That's
yeah,
awesome.
it was great.
Yeah, one guy had the speakers on. It was blasting the music. That was really cool cosplay.
That was cool.
Really nice.
That was awesome.
Nice level of detail. All right, awesome.
more, friend of the
one more.
show.
All right, right there.
Kind of a shameless plug for my friends that do True Dungeon.
Yeah.
This year, the sets in the dungeon are just amazing. They really kicked it up, and it's they're doing a new story arc with the help of Patrick Rothfuss.
Yep.
Oh yeah, nice.
Yeah, so it's just really amazing.
Yeah.
Cool.
I wish I had known that the True
Yes.
Dungeon this year was set in the King Killer Chronicles world because I would
Yes,
have.
I'd have been all
I
over
would
that
have
too.
finagled a ticket.
There's
I missed
people
that.
that are nodding their head and be like, yeah, it was amazing.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
All right, so you can still sneak in.
Cool. Has anybody done it? Was it good? Was it just Yeah.
So
see,
someone said the
it
monsters
was good.
scared them. Yeah.
It was awesome. Yeah.
All right,
Not
great.
the year to miss.
Cool. Great.
What's that?
Oh, nice. So there's a
for the
two-parter.
whole-
That's
the
great. So
two-parter.
it's hard to hear. There's no mic out there. But yeah, so it's getting good reviews from the few folks who have been.
Indeed.
Excellent. Well, is that achievements, Craig?
That's achievements,
Thank
Russ.
you, Mob. Bling, bling.
And now, in an attempt to bring a small amount of dignity and decorum to this otherwise base form of entertainment, and I use the term loosely, I am proud to present... Oh, get on with it. It's time for App of the Ep. Seriously, Wakeland, I used to have my own segment, now I'm relegating to announcing this pap. Hey, you're lucky we still use you.
Howdy, everyone. Welcome to another App of the Ep. This time around, a little game that I actually got because I thought my youngest daughter would love it. Turns out she didn't like it, but I'm really enjoying it. And that game is Cat Quest. Cat Quest, I'm playing it on iOS. It is a little action RPG in which, of course, everyone is a little furry anamorphic cat. Anthropomorphic and a human-looking cat. That's the one I'm looking for. And great little game. I love the graphics. It's really cute. Very reminiscent of sort of a Zelda-y type of experience. A little bit where you're walking around, but the monsters are real actively moving on the map too and attacking you. You swing your little sword. You find various costumes and upgrade gear to upgrade your cat. Go fulfill quests. Fight monsters, you get magic spells. It's pretty straightforward, a little adventure game, but what really makes this one sing for me, a couple things. One, you do pay for it, but it's like $4 and you have all the levels and a full game there. So there's lots of hours of gameplay. I like the little play on cat words. It's there's the capital instead of the capital, things like that. Just real fun. I love the animation style. Very, very fun little animation style. There's a great little choices in the combat system between using your weapon or using various spells. The interface is fantastic, very easy to use. Just hold your thumb down on your cat and choose from your various spells. Tap and hold where you want to walk, and you walk in that direction. And when you get near, sort of tap on the monster, and your sword swings, and then when a monster attempts to attack back, there's a little like radius of effect and a countdown timer, if you will, that starts to contract, and your job is to get out of there before he hits you, so you can actually actively dodge. So nice little tactics, a fun little game, and I really have to say the background music's great, and I really can't get past how beautiful the art style is. It just looks fantastic on a nice, a good-sized smartphone. So that is, of course, Cat Quest on iOS.
Thank you for listening to another scintillating edition of App of the Ep, a segment in which,
Hey, less of that. More just getting on with the show.
seriously, Wakeland, you are like school in summer. No class.
Hey, welcome back. And Craig, since we had a great achievements in gaming there at Gen Con,
Yes.
of course. That was awesome. And the mob was fantastic this year, Craig.
The mob was so energetic, Russ.
Oh,
it was
man.
so much fun.
The mob was awesome. Of course, having Nicole there was great, and Kip, my daughter, was managing the prizes. It was fun.
Sure.
But and we also had the great interview with Will, but we felt like maybe the show came in a little bit lighter than we'd hoped. So we wanted to have a little more content for you guys here.
And we were hearing some complaints about length.
Right. Everybody's
at
always
Gen
talking.
Con.
Right. Show's getting too short. Not really. But so I thought we'd talk a little bit, Craig, about during the play by mob when we talked about the achievement section. It was really more folks in the mob talking about what they saw, and it was kind of early in Gen Con. And now that we're back home, it might be kind of fun to chat a little bit about some of the games you and I played, and maybe some of our thoughts on those games.
Yeah, sure.
So what was one of the ones that really kind of caught your fancy while you were there?
Well, here's my problem, Russ.
Yeah.
My problem is that without a doubt, hands down, my big giant experience at the con was Time of Joan of Arc.
Joan of Arc.
I can't remember what the what would you call that? The subtitle, subtitle. Time of Legends, that's what it was.
Yeah.
And by Mythic Games.
Yes.
Sorry. And so Russ, you actually saw it.
I did.
You told me about this amazing Euro minis game that had these real weird Euro mechanics, and it reminded you of Rune Wars, and I needed to check it out.
Yeah, it reminded me actually of Battlelore a little bit.
Battlelore, that's
right.
Battlelore, not Rune Wars.
Original Battlelore, yeah.
Yeah, the original, yeah. And so I was intrigued, and I went, and it was very hard to get a demo. No matter how hard I tried, I just couldn't quite make it work. And then Doug from Table Wars, those guys kind of hooked me in, and they hooked both of us in, and then you took off. But
I did.
they got us a demo. And that game looks awesome. 15 millimeter. I'm sure everybody's heard about it by now because it's all over the web, because most people really thought it was the big hit of the con, or a lot of people did. 15 millimeter fantasy, but when you ask them, they will tell you it's not fantasy. It's historical, but it's historical from the perspective of the people who were living in that time period.
Right.
So the things that they believed were real are real in the game. Witches, vampires, werewolves, dragons, angels, demons, they're all in the game. And it's 15 millimeter, and it's played on a hex map. And the way they did the hexes, it's really cool because it incorporates terrain so that it's easier to swing through one hex than it is this other hex. And the way you activate the models is extremely innovative, dare I say, in that you only have a certain number of activations per turn, and that's random. There are ways for you to boost the number of activations by sacrificing one thing to get something else, sort of deal, depending on what army that you have. And you're not limited you're not limited in those activations by one unit can only do one thing or two things. You're actually limited by how many activations you can give an area.
Yes.
Right? So you activate this region, and everybody in that region might move and attack. They might scatter and go to different regions. The thing is, you're not allowed to activate that region again. So if you use an activation to move a unit from that region, they're in a new region, so you can activate that region and move them from that region. And so it really gives you a lot of strategic opportunities. It's very intriguing, but I have to, and that all looks cool. And the starter set, the killer for me is that it's Kickstarter, which still kills me, still bugs me to this day.
Yeah.
And I'll talk about that in a little bit. But from what they're saying, this sounds crazy. In the box, you're going to get, they said over 200 minis, but they're 15 mil. So, that's still probably over 70 units.
Yeah.
All the terrain, trees and buildings and churches are going to come 3D plastic. That's all planned. And the stuff they had was resin, but it looked beautiful. That it really made the tables pop. And even though you're playing on more of a hex grid rather than an open wargaming field, it really was done graphically to make it look really cool and really awesome.
Yeah.
But not only is it a war game, it's also got these other play modes, including these narrative battles, which is what Doug and I were playing, where, and again, based on real history. In real history, a knight, a priest, and a group of men-at-arms, sounds like a joke, went into this village looking for a werewolf, found a guy, and burned him at the stake, of course, because that's what you'd do. Except that in Joan of Arc, Time of Legends, well, things are a little bit different. So when you find that guy, he's not some helpless little peasant who can't fight for himself. He's actually a werewolf. So the game that we played, he was looking in this village for a werewolf. I had 4 different villagers wandering around, and I had, at the beginning of the game, randomly determined which one was the actual werewolf. He has to go through the fog and the mist at night. He's got to like make his way through all these random encounters. Are they going to be peasants who will join his cause? Are they going to be wolves who are just mysteriously lurking about the edges of this village? Is that little old lady in the woods over there, is she just a little old lady gathering wood for the winter, or is she an evil witch who's helping the werewolf take over the countryside? And all of this is determined by cards and random draw and the choices that the players are making. And we had a blast. It was awesome. It was really kind of a nail biter. Went right down to the end of the game. You had 6 turns to find the werewolf. It was a blast. It was awesome all the way through. I had the most fun probably in any game or demo that I played in the
vendor hall.
In the vendor hall, thank you. Did you get a chance to do a demo, Russ, or did you
So I got sucked in right from when I first saw the booth, and I watched a demo be played and kind of watched enough of the mechanics to see what I liked it. And when you're describing the sort of, you pick the zone to activate, that's the part that kind of reminded me of Battle Lore, right? Because your command and control is dictated by the shape of the board. But I really, what impressed me the most was the look of the game and sort of this interesting sort of different set of mechanics to command your forces. And the scale is perfect, looks really cool, and this dragon model they had on display there was crazy.
Oh, it's crazy.
It's easily big enough to be used in a game of Dungeons & Dragons, yet it's designed for 15 millimeters, so it's, for the scale of the game, it's massive. The detail's fantastic. And here's the thing, yeah, it stinks it's Kickstarter, except the prices of this stuff is stupidly good. Like, they were saying that dragon for Kickstarter is going to be like $60, which I guess could sound like a lot, except if you've ever priced models of that quality and that size and scale,
it's about a 22-inch wingspan.
Yeah, this is easily a $200 Forge World piece or a $100 Wizards of the Coast sort of pre-paint, but it's better than a pre-paint. It looks awesome, and it's not painted, but it looks amazing. So this game definitely one to watch, and if you're interested in following it, the easiest place to follow it's actually on Facebook. It's joan.of.arc2017.
Yeah.
So follow that on Facebook, like it, and you'll be able to see what's going on there. Links to a bunch of information, lots of great pictures from Gen Con, as well as I'm sure they'll post their date when the Kickstarter goes live. If you're interested. This is definitely one I'm going to keep an eye on, Craig. It could be a really slick title. And Mythic, I like. These are the guys that did the Conan miniature Overlord game that I like so much. They're doing the new Batman one, which uses the same mechanics. They were demoing that there as well. That looked pretty cool. Neat thing about the new Batman game, and they're also doing this for Conan. So for those of you who we talked lightly about Conan, but Conan's the Conan miniature game, or it's actually a board game, but it's got tons of miniatures in it. This game, one player is the Overlord, the rest of the players are Conan and a bunch of the guys from his band there. And what's interesting is the Overlord has sort of this plastic area where you put your cards and do your commands, and I won't get into that now. But the Batman game, exact same mechanics, but it's Batman. But Batman introduced this Overlord versus Overlord mode, where actually the two Overlords can fight using all the minions, and they're taking that into Conan as well, and they were showing that at Gen Con also. So that's pretty cool also. So I've never really seen Overlord versus Overlord. I guess Super Dungeon Explorer kind of did that too, but it was a pretty neat idea, so I'm looking forward to checking that out. And the Batman one, if you like Batman, definitely keep an eye on that, because that looked pretty slick as well. So Craig, I have one I saw. I really liked, did you get a chance to see the Doctor Who board game?
I'm not a big Doctor Who guy, so I saw it and walked on by.
All right, I got to talk about this.
But I heard you and Nicole were super excited about it.
We are. Well, there actually were two really exciting games. Actually, Gale Force 9, our friends at Gale Force 9, they were showing a bunch of things that got my attention. As Craig and I have talked about before, Gale Force 9 has been our friend. Well, we've known them since way back, since they did bits.
Since they were selling Plasticard in the basement of Games Day.
Yeah, so long ago. But now, of course, we also raved about them when they did Spartacus. They've got great licensed games, as most of you guys know. And this year they had a couple things. They had some expansions for Star Trek Ascendancy, which I'm a big fan of. So now I got the Ferengi and the Cardassians, so I was excited to get that. But also they were showing off, they were launching their new game Tanks, which uses it's a tank.
No, that's not new though. It's been around for a long time.
No, I don't think Tanks was it?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's been around for a while.
Maybe it's a new box. I don't know.
Maybe that's a new box. I think it might be a new box set.
It was selling like crazy because they had a new box set for Tanks, which, as some of you may know, it uses the Flames of War tank models, but it's just a pure tank combat game. That looks really cool. I think it has been around a while, Craig, but I think this is the first really cool box of it. Right. So they sold that like crazy. But the two board games they were showing, they weren't selling them yet, but they were previewing them. One was Doctor Who, and the other one was Firefly Adventures, right, Craig?
Oh, yeah.
So we'll talk about Firefly in a second.
Yeah,
But
you talk about Doctor Who, and then we'll both talk about Firefly.
All right.
No, we'll both talk about that.
So what was cool about Doctor Who, it's a board game, and what immediately catch your attention when you see this game all set up is all the cool little plastic bits. There's little plastic TARDISes. Yes, there's more than one. There's little plastic doctors. And the premise of the game is each of the players, up to 4, gets to play one of the incarnations of Doctor Who. So you might be playing the 4th Doctor, someone else might be playing the 1st Doctor, someone else might be playing the 9th Doctor. So up through 1 through 9 are in there, they were saying, in the box, but obviously there's room for expansions. And it was really cool to see a little Thomas Baker figure, and to see a little K9 miniature that went with him, and to see David Tennant, little David Tennant miniature, the Matt Smith miniature. And what's kind of interesting about the game is each of you are playing Doctor Who. It's semi-co-op, so it's Rise of the Daleks, right? So you're trying to stop the Daleks from winning, but you're trying to be the coolest incarnation of the Doctor to get to Gallifrey first. So if the Daleks win, all the Doctors lose. But if one of you makes the Gallifrey, the Doctors win, but more importantly, the single Doctor who makes it to Gallifrey wins. So it's semi-co-op. But the neat mechanic of the game is not only are you all playing different incarnations, but if one of you, air quotes, dies, you regenerate as the next incarnation that's not currently playing. So if I'm playing the 4th Doctor and I die, and someone else is playing the 5th Doctor, I'll regenerate as the 6th Doctor. So kind of neat. So I didn't get a chance to play that one. I got to watch it a little bit, but the miniatures were fantastic. They're really wonderful. I love this idea because anytime people try to make a Doctor Who game, the thing is everybody wants to play Doctor Who. So they solved that problem, which I thought was pretty creative. But the little Daleks look great, the little plastic Daleks. The TARDISes look great. Each player's got their little own color that snaps on to the bottom of your TARDIS and the bottom of your current incarnation of the Doctor. So it's really, really, really nicely done. That looks really cool. But then, Craig, the other game that caught everyone's eye was the new Firefly miniature game. Or not a miniature game, but I guess tabletop adventure ground-based game. Let's call it that.
Yeah.
So let's talk about that. What caught your eye about it?
Well, first of all, the fact that there was a new Firefly game caught my eye.
Yeah, duh.
But then walking by the table where you see this 3D board set up, it's set up on a grid, and the terrain is it's sort of deserty ground or gritty, dirty, packed ground. Yeah. And then there's 3D buildings, no roof, so it's for gameplay, but you can see there's 3D, the walls and everything, and they've got all kinds of full color art on them. And they're basically container buildings, and it's supposed to be the eaves down docks on Persephone from Firefly. And these models that you see moving around the table, which are clearly the 5 of the crew members of of Serenity. So that was kind of cool, just seeing the models right there as a starting point. But then watching the game played once through was awesome because you get this. The main mechanic, I think, that's kind of that the game is sort of built around is this concept of, are the crew members being casual or are they being big damn heroes? And if there's a different miniature for each. So there's a casual mini where they might have their hands in their pockets or they're hanging out or they've got a cigarette. If you're Jane, you got a cigarette in one hand, you're just hanging out in the other hand. And then the big damn hero mini where they've got their guns blazing and their cloaks are flying out and everything. And so it's almost like you're 2 different characters because you have different stats and different abilities depending on whether you are being casual or being a hero. Except that being a hero, all the bad guys start coming right at you and start shooting at you, where they won't do that if you're just being casual. So it was really cool to see that. And then when we sat down and played out a full small demo scenario, it was great fun, and it's very reminiscent of Firefly the board game. In fact, when you do the little crime actions in Firefly the board game, this game is sort of designed to be a fun, fully fleshed out version of those little quick card mechanics that they have, where you flip it and it gives you 2 different options and you roll some dice and you move on. In the board game, in the adventure game, that the whole game is that height, whether you're trying to steal something or free something or get information out of a terminal or get from point A to point B. I mean, really the spectrum of possible missions and scenarios is almost endless. And so, that was really cool. And then if you look at, Gale Force 9's write-up of that on Board Game Geek and other places, they actually talk about this game is the Eves Down docks. But they're hoping to do expansions, which will be other areas that the TV show explored, and other characters like crew, like passengers maybe, that will join the crew. So you'll have more characters to choose from, more bad guys that will show up, cough, and other cool stuff. So that the game is just really, really expandable, which was super exciting to me. But another thing I thought, and I'm curious to see if you had the same thought. The initiative mechanic that they're using is very familiar.
Oh yeah, it's been in a couple different games.
Yeah, the Dragon and Flagon is the only place I've seen it.
Dragon and Flagon. Before that, it was in Gnomes on a Submarine. Or Dwarves on a Submarine. I can't remember.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Red November.
Red November
That's
was
right.
the very first time I saw this mechanic.
That's true. I totally forgot that. Your actions take up time.
Yes, your actions take time, and it moves you up the track. There's a bunch of other games too. It's not. But what's interesting, we should say this: it's a pure co-op game, right? So
Yes,
the AI of the bad guy models, and there's plenty of little plastic dudes in this game, are all controlled by the board. But as Craig mentioned, the casual mode, you can get ignored, you can kind of do whatever you want. But what was funny for me was I was playing Wash, and I got into this room, and I tried to hack the computer, and sure enough, the hack goes bad, the computer catches on fire, and now all of a sudden I'm forced into heroic mode, which means the bad guys can basically running into the room to see what's up. But Wash, who's terrible in combat, is really good at talking his way out of his situation, getting casual again, which is kind of cool. So that was really cool. But yeah, so the timing mechanic's really neat. It does work like Red November or Dragon and Flagon, where there's a little meter on the left-hand side of the board. Every player's name is on there, and as you do certain actions, it takes more time. You move up that far on the track, and you don't get to activate again until everybody below you is activated, right? Mm-hmm. So, and all the bad guys, as they start to come alive and realize you're someone they got to deal with, their name goes on the track as well, and they start doing things also. So there's a really interesting puzzle solving that starts happening there. As well. So it's really, really solid game. I really like it. I'd love to play a little more. I mean, the only thing I'm a little worried about is just the AI, but it seemed to play really well there. And just the mission variety. But love the models. It comes with the cool little cardboard buildings. So everything we played with is right out of the box. And they're doing some crazy cool promotional stuff, too, that they actually have Naked Mal as a miniature sitting on his little rock. So some really cool stuff as well. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I think it's going to do very well. For them, which is great also. So it'd be nice to have a Firefly. And it also, Craig, it seemed to play a lot faster than the other board games.
Oh, yes. It took up less space, too.
That'll be nice, because I do like the other Firefly board game, but it seems to take a lot of time.
It does take a lot of time.
Cool. Let's see. I have another one, Craig.
Okay.
My wife and my children, or Kit, my oldest daughter couldn't make it because she had a chorus thing. We were wandering by this one area, and we saw this giant table that was obviously this seems to be more of a theme lately, where the board game manufacturers will make an oversized version of their game.
Oh,
and
yes.
They'll really bling it out. Kind of like miniature. I think they took a page from the miniature gamers, quite frankly. So, miniature companies now will have their massive, awesomely looking terrain tables to show their armies off and stuff. So board game companies seem to be doing the same thing. And so there's this huge sort of fairy tale table set up with giant mushrooms and little fairies and wizards and all these crazy things going on. And we were walking by, and the guy's like, "We need 2 more people for a demo." And so I'm like, "Oh, we're in." So we played. And we got sucked right in, because what looked like sort of like a very colorful, simple, roll and move type Candyland game we first walked up to it, really turned into a humorous but very, very sophisticated and sort of cutthroat game where what the premise of this is that each of you is a different wizard. It's called Wizards for Hire. Wizards Wanted. It's called Wizards Wanted. And each of you is a different wizard. And the game comes with these cute little plastic models that are of the different wizards, and one's like a female elf riding a bear, and one's like a druid, and one's like a wizard, classic little Gandalf-y looking wizard, all the different spellcasting guys. And you're going to walk around the board, and on the different areas of the board, there's going to be cards that represent different wizarding tasks that need to be done. And one might be, the eggplant festival, and you got to make the eggplant super large to impress the audience. Or one might be a birthday party you got to do, or whatever. So they're silly, they're fun, and they're cute little artwork on them. And there's really a couple different resources in the game. The primary resource is pixie dust. And pixie dust is represented by these really cool little plastic gems. And the gems are different sizes, for 1 point of pixie dust to 5 points to 10 to 50. So they really get quite large, and they're really these cool little translucent sort of almost like gem bits. They're really cool. So you collect this pixie dust, and then you have to use the pixie dust to solve these little wizarding problems. When you solve the wizarding problems, you get points and money. But to get around the board, your character has different movement speeds and stuff. So to get around the board, you actually have to teleport, which also requires pixie dust. But then also there's this whole other metagame where you'll get money and have to go buy other things. There's also a transportation system, a teleporting system to get around the board faster. So there's actually no dice for rolling and moving. You're actually trying to get around the board pretty quick. But to do that, you have to spend pixie dust. Meanwhile, all of you are operating as technically unregistered wizards. And the king really doesn't know that's happening right now. But in the center of the table, there is a pile of these official Wizard of the Realm cards. And you can go petition the king to become a registered wizard. And if you do this, then you'll become a registered wizard. You'll have this special bonus at the end of the game. But also, now the king knows there are unlicensed wizards in the realm, and anybody who doesn't get licensed by the end of the game takes a negative. So it's basically a victory point game, but there's all these little evil things you can do to screw your neighbors, as well as like steal the various parties before they get there. It's a really neat little game, and there's a lot more depth to it than I thought, and we ended up buying it. We were like, oh, this is cool. So we ended up snapping that one up. Nice box control. The game packs up really nicely. Great family game. Super easy to teach, but actually there's a lot of depth there, and it was fun to watch all these grown-up gamers there really having a great time in this little pixie wizard casting game. So Wizards Wanted really impressed my family.
Cool.
So what's your next one, Craig?
My next one, Russ, would be a game that you turned me on to, and another game that had a big giant board display to get your attention, and that would be Santorini.
Oh, yes.
Santorini is a very fun, fast game. It's apparently it's been around for a long time, for almost 30 years, and it's a really cool game. The problem is you don't really know who you're getting it from. And what I'm saying there is it was a Kickstarter by a company called Roxley, who got a good, successful Kickstarter out of it. And then they licensed it to this other company who I'm having a very hard time finding because it's very confusing, like I said. It's Spin Master, I think. No, it is Spin Master because that's what was on their shirts. Spin Master had this big, giant, huge board. They were really talking it up, and the board was really fun. And it's basically a 2-player game, although you can play with 4 players. And the whole point is that you've got 2 guys on the board. The other guy has 2 guys on the board. And what you're trying to do is build these towers. And if you've ever seen any pictures of the Greek island Santorini, it is this beautiful, the city, Thera, I think, is right on this cliff, and it's these white towers with these blue domes. It's beautiful architecture, very, very Greek. And what you're trying to do is build these multi-story buildings, and all you have to do to win the game is build up a 3-story building and then stand on top of it. Have one of your guys standing on top of it, boom, you're done. And the game is very simple. Every time it's your turn, one of your 2 guys has to move one and then construct. And when you're constructing, you can construct up to any level in any of the 8 spaces that are adjacent to the space that you're in. So it's sort of like a tic-tac-toe board with you in the middle, including diagonals. And if there's a 2-story building diagonal to you, you can build a 3rd story. The problem is you can only go up 1 story per move. So you have to kind of also build little staircases to get up there to that level. The other problem is the other person, if they're in a position to build on that 3-story building, can cap it with one of those beautiful blue domes, and now you can't stand on it. So you're going around, you're trying to build, you're trying to stop the other guy from building, and that's the whole game. Very, very simple. There are cards. You're also a god who's sort of guiding these guys, and the whole panoply of Greek gods is there. You get a whole deck of cards, and every god has some slight little way to tweak the rules of the game. We haven't played with those yet, but they look really cool. And then when you bought the game at Gen Con, it was a great deal. and you got a promo card, so a new god card, and they were like, oh, by the way, the Roxley booth is just 3 booths down, and if you go there, you give them your email, they'll give you another card. And I was like, oh, well, of course I'll go do that. So I go over there, and I'm like, hey, oh wait, and they had the Santorini Golden Fleece expansion.
Ooh.
And I was like, oh, an expansion, I have to get that. Duh. So I was like, oh, cool. I want that. And they're like, oh, and we'll also throw in these extra cards. And I was like, oh, great. And then they went, oh, wait, where did you buy your original game? Now they had a booth. They had like 4 or 5 games on display. They had it out so you could actually see it, which Spin Master did not have the actual game out. They just had the big giant version. And so I could see what I bought, which is cool. And their version, they were the Kickstarters. So they had the Kickstarter version that was $80. I don't know what that came with, but that's like 3 times what I paid. Then they had the regular version, which was like double what I paid, but apparently it had like a mouse pad mat and all kinds of cool extras that you don't really need, but it looks neat. But they're like, where did you buy your box? And I was like, oh, those guys three rows up. Oh yeah, it's different rules. Like what? Like, oh yeah. I was like, but it's the same game with the same box. Yeah, but they changed like the way they wrote the rules, so it's a different game. No, it's the same game, but they like changed some stuff. So everything you just bought from us is kind of like you have to go on our website and get the other rules. And I was like, what? So, huh? So that's a weird thing about Kickstarter that I hadn't experienced yet. That was like, so you had 2 different companies selling 2 identical looking games. But if you bought one element here and one element there, then you had to go on. And now I have to go online to be able to use all the stuff and that expansion was not cheap. It was almost as much as I paid for the whole, because the Spin Master guys were given a really great deal, a convention price for the Santorini. But it's an awesome game. I like it. That's just a weird side note that again, Kickstarter is great for so many different things, but it's just weird. Just weird.
Have you had a chance to play it with Reese yet?
I have, yes, and he really enjoyed it, and it was super easy. It's kind of the advanced forward thinking that you have to do to sort of stymie the other guy so that you can get in a position to win the game is a little bit beyond him. I think he's like sort of focusing on building his own towers. Right. And so a few times I had to be like, no, buddy, if you do that, then I'm going to be over here doing this. And he would be like, oh, so he could see how to stop me. He just isn't like on his own sort of seeing that aspect of the game yet. So I kind of like just want to point out to him all the different options that he has. But yeah, no, it was a lot of fun. Like I said, we haven't looked at the cards yet, but the cards look cool. They're all cartoony. The artwork is this beautiful cartoony aesthetic of all these different gods. So it was really neat.
Cool.
And that was the only game I actually bought at Gen Con. And that's why I'm thinking this whole Kickstarter thing, so many people now go to Gen Con not to sell their to have a big splash release, but to get the word out about their Kickstarter. So and I think this happened to me last year too. So this year I saw 3 games, 2 of which I would have definitely bought there right at the moment without any hesitation, Firefly Adventures and Joan of Arc. And then the third one, I probably would have bought A Song of Ice and Fire by Simon. I would have at least bought the starter because it looked really cool and the models are beautiful. Gameplay I'm still not sure of because they were so busy with their demos. They had 4 tables going and I could never get in there to get a demo, which again was very frustrating to me. But I watched a demo and from what I gather, it reminds me an awful lot of Rune Wars, but with like some of the more innovative stuff sort of taken away so that it's a little more streamlined and a little more vanilla-y. So I'm not sure about gameplay, but the models look beautiful and, Game of Thrones. But, instead, that game there was, hey, we just finished a Kickstarter. Look what it was. And Mythic was, oh, hey, we're going to start a Kickstarter. Look what it's going to be. And Gale Force 9 was, hey, this game's going to be available in 2 months. It's wicked cool, isn't it? And so instead of the big splat, when we first started going to Gen Con, where everybody was like, Gen Con's going to be where we launch our games and you can't get anything else for months afterwards, it's now where, like, it seems anyway, that most people are going. Like, did you see anything that was like a big splash release at Gen Con?
A couple things. Well, a couple. So one of them was Dragonfire was first available there.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
And Bunny Kingdoms was the other big one, which I actually picked up. I'll talk about that in a second. But you're right. I think it's the same as last year. It's not all Kickstarters, but I would say that again, I don't know if it was last year or the year before, but I think it's an every other year thing. So I remember a couple years ago with the same problem where it felt like everything, it was all previews, but nothing was available. So this con was the same way. I feel like Joan of Arc was cool, but it was a preview for a Kickstarter. Gale Force 9, both games are cool, but they're both previews for releasing later. Star Wars looks awesome from Fantasy Flight Games.
Oh, yeah, Star Wars.
Also a preview.
We haven't
later.
mentioned that, yeah.
Yeah, Star Wars Legion looks amazing. But again, that's a preview. So a lot of previews at Gen Con. I don't know if it's just timing or whatever. There were a few big things, but because Clank in Space was another big one that was gone. I was 3 people away from getting that one, Craig.
Mm-hmm.
So there was a couple of big releases there.
That's true. But those are board games.
Yes.
So that's an interest. So maybe it's it used to be the big miniatures games too, and that's not. Although you did get your elves. Rumor has it you may have bought 2 boxes.
I did buy 2 boxes of the new elves for Rune Wars. Malifaux, Weird was releasing the new book for Malifaux. And they were still previewing the other side.
And Privateer Press released the Grimkin.
The entire Grimkin faction was pretty much there, both the starter box and miniatures. It was pretty impressive.
That's true. That's true.
So it was happening, but it wasn't, the Tanks box set. So there was I think there was a lot of new stuff too, but a lot of the things that I think caught our eyes were definitely not available yet. Yeah. So,
that's true.
A lot of previewing happened, which I guess is okay, but I'm hopeful. See, I'm going to PAX Unplugged in November. I'm kind of hoping a lot of these things are ready for that.
That's true.
Because all these guys are coming there. Like, it was pretty impressive. Everybody at Gen Con's pretty much coming to PAX Unplugged, so it should be interesting. One of the game I did want to talk about, Craig, was Bunny Kingdoms. So this is a game, I guess there was a lot of buzz around it prior to Gen Con in the board game community. I don't follow every single board game thing, so I was unaware of it. But it's by Aiello, and I have a couple of Aiello games I really like. So I was walking by the Aiello booth, and I saw literally someone buying the last copy of Bunny Kingdoms there, and this is on the first day. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. I'm like, oh, it's really cool. And they were doing demos. And I'm watching this game. So it is what it sounds like. You are trying to control land, take over a kingdom. And it's got these cool little bits, these little tiny plastic bunnies, hundreds of them, and little tiny plastic fortresses. And it's basically like taking over the table, but in some very interesting ways. So I was like, well, my girls like bunnies, but they also like very tactical games or strategic games. And this game looked very strategic. And my wife likes bunnies, so I figured this would be a good one. So I decided I would try to get it. So it took me till they were getting like 100 new copies in each morning. So I did make one morning my mission to go get this game. And I did get a copy. And kind of funny story, I'm in line. I get to the front of the line. I'm kind of running in with the mob. I get there. I'm waiting in the front of the line. And there's a huge mob of people there. I get to the counter. They got 2 cash registers going. I'm buying mine. And the guy next to me is buying his. And I recognize that voice, and I turn my head, and it's John Richard. I'm like, John,
really?
How are you? He's like, I'm buying Bunny King. He's like, me too. He goes, yeah. Now I'm going to go have him demo it for me. And so literally John takes the box, turns to one of the people working in the booth, goes, hey, sir, can you show me how to play this game I just bought? I was like, that's John. It was awesome. But so then we did play Bunny Kingdoms, got it back in the hotel room, and my youngest daughter, who's 13, and my wife and I played Bunny Kingdoms. This is not a Craig game, I will say right now. It's not a Craig game because it is extremely Euro, and there is lots of math. In other words, basically you are trying to you're giving these cards, and you're going to take 2 cards and pass the rest of the hand to your right. So it's a drafting game. The whole game is card drafting essentially. But the cards you take give you actions. So one of the actions might be to put a bunny in a particular coordinate on the board. Another action might be to build a new fortress someplace. And what you are trying to do is get the right combinations of cards so you can build fiefdoms of bunnies. So these are places where the bunnies are all connected. So each square is one little space, and every connected square that's your color of bunnies is considered a fiefdom. And you're trying to optimize your fiefdom sizes, positioning, as well as the different resources they generate to maximize your victory points. There is a lot of math figuring this out. It's a very crunchy. It's simple, not hard to teach or learn. But it's a very math crunchy Euro game that we really liked. So I don't think this is a Craig game, but it's really cute, and the art on the cards is fantastic. And if you like Euros and you like bunnies, I would highly recommend Bunny Kingdoms. It's a little different for Aiello, actually. Aiello usually has pretty light games. It's a little meatier than usual, but I really enjoyed it a lot, and I'm really pleased with the purchase. That's Bunny Kingdoms.
Oh, cool.
So, Craig, you got one more before we run out of time here?
Nope, no. I had to cut my weekend short, so that was all I had
yes.
time for, yeah.
So that was most of them. I think we probably should talk a little bit about Star Wars Legends. Or Legion?
Oh, that Legion.
So the big announcement, well, one of the big announcements.
Yeah, I forgot that one.
Was that during the Fantasy, so every year, this is sort of a Fantasy Flight tradition for those who aren't familiar with Gen Con. On Fridays at 1 o'clock is the Flight Report, I'm using air quotes, where Fantasy Flight talks about the state of the company, and then they announce some new stuff. And they always announce something new, and then after that, at their booth, the new thing is put on display. And sometimes there's even demos of the new thing. Well, that was the case this year as well. So this year, in addition to announcing a bunch of new X-Wing stuff and other stuff, they also announced Star Wars Legion. And this is the new miniature combat game in the Star Wars universe.
Yeah.
So think of it as they've got Rune Wars, their fantasy version. Now they've got Star Wars, their sci-fi version.
Which is not to say the games are anything alike, because they have almost nothing in common.
Not really, no. In fact, Star Wars, Rune Wars is all blocks and movement. Star Wars is all units and spread out. And but the models look fantastic. They showcased.
They do.
The starter box comes with a little Imperial speeder bikes and a little Rebel walker thing. Did you recognize the walker, Craig? Is it from Rebel?
I have not. The
walker looks like a new thing. I don't remember that.
Yeah.
It's cool though.
It is cool.
And then they have different troops on both sides with shoulder-mounted weapons and all kinds of craziness. Craig, did you get a chance to play, or did you watch the demo at all?
No, again, I did not make it. I took a lot of really cool pictures and tweeted them all out, but I could not get into that demo table area.
Yeah, it was very mobbed. It was hard to see. But it looks interesting, so I'll be interested to see how this one does. I have mixed feelings about this because on the one hand, it does have the 2-faction rule. Maybe it has 3 if they get the bounty hunters in there or something. But then again, X-Wing did really well. So
it did.
I don't know, but X-Wing's pre-paints and this is not.
Yeah,
so,
I'm very nervous, Russ, that they're depending on the IP to carry it over the threshold.
Yeah.
And I've seen this before where a lot of people underestimate or overestimate maybe the miniature gamers community.
Yeah.
Right. We are, I think, a little more demanding, and there's a lot of overlap in board games. You've got 3 groups, right? You've got board gamers, minis gamers, and Star Wars fans. And I think X-Wing is kind of like a really, if you look at the Venn diagram,
right.
X-Wing kind of collects a lot of that into one big circle. But I think Star Wars Legions is not going to be nearly that big a circle without nearly as much overlap, because the models don't come assembled. They don't come painted. You have to have terrain. There's a lot that you have to bring to the table to make that game work that you don't have to worry about with X-Wing. Right? Or even with Imperial Assault. And so I'm nervous. And I'm also nervous about the 2 factions, Russ. And just think how long it took, how long it took them to get that third Rogues faction into X-Wing might have been a function of them, the learning curve, and they might have already learned that now. So who knows? They might, they might be able to, but if you look at Rune Wars, which actually has more factions built into the universe right off the bat, and we're still looking at months and months and months of only 2 factions.
Right.
So I don't know. I'm nervous. I'm also nervous about how this might impact Rune Wars, because if you look again at imagine a Venn diagram of Rune Wars players and possible Star Wars Legion players, I think there's a lot of overlap there.
Yeah, so for me personally, now I may be weird. I'm going to stick with Rune Wars and wait and see on Star Wars. So I will not be buying the box when Star Wars comes out. Like I said, I'm all in on Rune Wars. I just bought 2 starter boxes of the elves. I'm really excited about the Chaos guys coming out. They had those on display too. Great, they look great.
Yeah.
So I'm all in on Rune Wars, and I'm trying to push that because I think it's a great, great game.
Yeah.
Star Wars could have some awesome mechanics as well. But I just feel like in Star Wars, it's got the 2-side thing really bothers me. I mean, not that I don't love Star Wars, because I do.
Well, it's intriguing, Russ, because if you look at all the mechanics and everything, you're looking at, in my mind, from what I was able to watch, Star Wars Legion is a lot more. It has a lot more in common with X-Wing and even more in common with Armada, I think, than it does with Rune Wars.
Right.
So like you're using a movement template, and you're only moving the leader, and then the rest of the unit gets placed around the leader again.
Right.
But you've got a movement template, you've got range sticks, you've got the dice that look like they lifted right out of a combination of Imperial Assault and X-Wing. So you've got the surges, and you've got the hits, and you've got the dodges, and all kinds of stuff. So it's very much more in line with those games. And I'm with you. Like, I would love to have like a whole, like, scruffy bandit group that I could play. But right now, what you're looking at is basically the Battle of Endor, or Vendor, according to autocorrect. And without much, I don't know how it's going to expand. It's FFG, so they've got some cool expansion ideas coming. So it'll be interesting to see. And I'm with you. I do not think I will be jumping on this at release. I will more be looking to see where it goes before I put money into that, as opposed to Rune Wars, where I've already got a lot of money sort of focused.
Yes, me as well. So there you have it. Those are some of the games that caught our eye. There were others, but those are the big ones. So thanks again for listening to the Gen Con episode, and we'll be right back with our interview with Will.
In a world where board gaming was king, in a time when Kickstarter ruled the web, when every day brought more and more games, now, more than ever, two men and a revolving third chair and a girl, a total fangirl, brought a shining light into the darkness so that all mankind would know what to buy. They are the D6 generation.
Hey, welcome back. I'm really excited to be here with Will Schoonover. Hello, Will.
Hi.
This is great. So, Will, thank you for taking this time from Gen Con 50.
Yeah.
50, right?
Yeah.
This is crazy. Take a little time away from the Privateer Press booth, man. Just pull Will out to talk about Company of Iron, right?
Yep.
Did I say that properly?
Yes, you did.
Excellent. Good. So I'm super excited about this. Of course, I'm a big fan. Well, first of all, I have to take a moment to fawn.
Yeah.
As listeners will know, I'm a huge Privateer Press fanboy. Craig picks on me about this all the time.
Yep.
Big fan of Widower's Wood, which I know you were worked on. That's fantastic. My kids and I are playing that every week now, pretty much.
Yeah.
Loving that. And so now I'm excited that you guys have done something to take War Machine to a smaller scale.
Yes.
With Company of Iron. So can you tell me about how that kind of idea came to be? How you guys got into that mode?
So we've been talking for years. I've worked at the company 6 years. We've been talking for quite a while about other things to do with your miniatures, because War Machine appeals to a certain set of people. The size of it, the complexity of it, the time it takes to play, all those things. And we wanted to come up with ways to let new hobbyists in with a smaller investment in time and energy and all that stuff, and also just give people something else to do with their miniatures. So the board games came out of that conversation too, of how else do we express the Iron Kingdoms. And in the last 2 years or so, we started talking about, well, what if we focus on a different element of warfare? And that conversation evolved into, how about just mostly infantry, and then we can do some sort of narrative, casual, guys going on scouting missions game. And from there, it was just taking the Prime rulebook and hacking things out of it that didn't apply to that kind of mentality.
Awesome. So did you start off with sort of, if it's going to be the infantry guys, what are you thinking, 10 models, 5 models? What's a normal size of a force on a table?
So it uses existing War Machine stat cards with some tweaks here and there to some abilities that just don't function exactly how we want them to in this game. So you build a 20 or 25 point army.
Oh, okay.
And you don't get access to warcasters, large base models, things that can't move, attachments to casters, and multiple instances of the same thing. So if a card gives you a certain number of things, like Stormcallers, they're 3 to a card, but a Paladin is 1 to a card, and an infantry unit might be 6 or 10 to a card, you get basically that 1 card worth of stuff.
Got it. That's cool.
Yeah.
So you could have one card, so 3 Stormcallers, or 1 to 3 Stormcallers, or things like that.
Yeah.
Very cool. And so how did you go about making the game with that few models? It seems like missions and scenarios and focus can be really important. How did you kind of solve that problem?
So we started playing it, first of all, just straight, just taking the War Machine models, putting them on the table, and we'd already decided we wanted to do a different activation system than War Machine. And so pretty early on, it was one model on my side, then one model on your side, back and forth.
Ooh, integrated term system. I like that already.
It gets players much more involved. I played a game in the events hall yesterday with a guy, and he's a War Machine player. He's been playing for years, and he would finish moving a model, and then I would go to move a model, and he would get distracted because he's so used to
taking a break,
waiting on his opponent. So I kept having to nudge him and be like, "It's your turn. You can move a guy now." And it became really apparent after like a game or two that there were some weirdnesses in that system that you couldn't just straight translate it across, because Warcasters do a lot in War Machine that might not be completely apparent to people.
Right.
We scale the point systems of War Machine and the stat lines and all that stuff to give each thing a job. And some infantry's job is just to hold ground or to get in the way or to be an annoyance or whatever. But when you're playing with 10 or 12 or 11 or whatever guys, you need all of them to pull their weight.
Right.
So the challenge of the game was coming up with a compensation for not having access to the spells and all the things that buff and give you extra dice and rolls and all those kind of things. And I looked at 3 or 4 different systems, tried 1 or 2 of them, realized I was going the wrong direction, and then hit on the idea that we could give a secondary kind of point system to the quality of guys inside this game, and I threw in a deck of cards. So I'm a board game designer primarily. I've done all the big things, all the level 7 games, both the IK adventure games, and so like cards are a thing I love. And I really like what cards do and the resources and the management of that resource and those kind of things.
Plus you can sneak in cool art.
Yes. So we've got a deck of 40 cards that both players share. So it's a little bit more random and casual in that way. And those cards, the 40 cards are unique on the top half of the card. There's a battle plan that's kind of, if you're familiar with War Machine, the mini feats and those kind of little things that infantry guys can do once a game or whatever. And then the bottom of the card and the top left-hand icon, so that you can fan the cards and see what you've got in your hand, is one of 5 things we call assets. And those are the boosts and the re-rolls and all those things.
So instead of relying on your Warcaster or something to create boosts, you do it with the cards.
Yes. And then that quality balance is if you take models that are super effective in Company of Iron, because they have high defense or high armor or high attack stats, or they like have abilities that make them not have to do damage rolls against certain kinds of models, your hand size is going to be smaller because you don't need all those extra dice as much. If you take guys that are a little subpar because their job in Company of Iron is to do work, but their job in War Machine games is to stall or hold the ground or do whatever, and their attack stats might not be that great or their defense stats, then you are probably going to get cards in your hand.
So they could boost more often, but the other team can't.
Yeah, so you're going to get basically more access to free dice and stuff than your opponent, but he's going to have better raw stats than you.
Okay, cool. That's very great. And what were some of the ideas you sort of had to distill down to make this work? Like, what did you have some crazy ideas in the beginning that kind of had to get left on the tables in the drawing room floor?
Yeah. So there's people have already asked questions. The first question almost everyone asks is persistent advancement and campaign play.
Oh yes.
So everybody wants that kind of thing, especially in a small skirmish game. But when I work on a game, especially if it's a brand new concept, I like to establish a baseline before I work on anything else.
So get the core mechanics just rock solid before you expand it.
So the best example of that from a previous thing is Undercity. When we built Undercity, we took the RPG rules and we said, how do we make this a board game?
Right.
And the RPG has a different magic system than standard attacking and damage rolls and all that stuff. And so I purposely didn't put a wizard-type character in the base Undercity game because I didn't want to have to build that subsystem.
Right.
Yeah, so we are talking in the office, formalizing plans, getting schedules worked out for all kinds of expansions for this game. And the top of the list, most obvious thing on the radar is persistent advancement and campaign play.
Cool.
So no one has to ask me any more questions about that because I know. And then the other question a lot of people have been asking is, what about all the other models that almost fit in this game but don't quite?
Yeah.
Because you can't play large bases, And that mostly works because that takes out cav and heavy warjacks and those kind of things. But there's a few things out there like the Dragoon models that are guys on horses that jump off and they become a small base model.
Right.
But in the 3rd edition of the game, they don't have their own point system. In the old, like 1st edition, you could buy either one. So people have been like, well, can I play with my Dragoon model on foot? And I want to let you do that, but I didn't want to work that complication because this is also supposed to be a gateway game. We're selling it in a starter, $75 for 2 20-point armies, so basically 2 full armies. It's some models that we've had out for a while that are repackaged in there, and then 2 new solos, so a hero on both sides. Deck of cards, all the rule books, and we split the rules into a basic rules, a advanced rules for jack marshalling, all the things you don't have in the base set, and then the scenario and terrain guide, because you don't really need the terrain in the core rules. You can have the terrain be in the scenario guide.
Right.
So we're setting this up to appeal to existing War Machine players. War Machine players who might have drifted off because they've had kids or a job change or whatever, and they've still kept some models. And if they have 20 points of infantry, it's more than likely an army already.
Right.
And then we also want to appeal to the people that have always looked at our minis and liked them, but haven't quite wanted to jump into War Machine for various reasons.
Well, it also helps with the situation where you've painted one unit, and you got to paint 20 more guys to be able to play War Machine, but now you can just play around and try them out. And as a War Machine player, also, if you want to try a different unit in another faction, you can go there too.
Yeah, that's the other big appeal to it, because we've got people always leaping between factions. But a lot of the times, if you're one of those guys, especially that doesn't play with unpainted models, you got to paint 40 models maybe before you can start playing with them. But in this, you paint a solo on a unit that's expensive enough, and that's 20 points, and you can play right away.
Well, I'm already excited. I love those little Gremkin with the hobby horses.
Oh, yeah.
What are those guys called?
Nayslayers.
The Nayslayers. They're awesome. Now, I don't think I'm going to collect a Gremkin faction, but I would love to have those guys to play in something.
Yeah.
That'd be sweet.
We get a lot. I've got a lot of comments from all kinds of people saying things like that. Like, I really, really like those Holy Knights in Protectorate, the Exemplars, but I don't really want to play a whole Protectorate army, so this will let me jump into it.
This also helps me, selfishly, because my oldest daughter is a huge War Machine player. She's been playing since she was 10. She's 15 now, huge Circle player. My youngest daughter doesn't like to paint, but she's jealous of us having this little game. Now she could paint 5 or 6 models. She can join in and play this other game with us, which is great. Tell me a little bit more. I used to be a very competitive player. Now I'm more of a scenario narrative guy. Nothing wrong with competitive play. Is Company of Iron going to be like a steamroller type situation, or are you going more with a casual play situation?
We are never going to give this a tournament format, a full-on head-to-head tournament format. We are going to support it fully with all kinds of extra stuff. So it's already set up to be very narrative and casual in the box set. There's 6 missions, some of which, more than half, I think, are asymmetrical, and they're mostly narrative missions. So one of them, you have a supply cache. You have these 2 ammo dumps, and I have dynamite, and I'm going to blow up your supply cache.
Oh, sweet.
In another one, some baggage train has exploded, and there's loot across the middle of the board, and we want to grab that loot and get off the board while we're also fighting.
Nice.
So those 6 missions are also set up to roll a random mission when you start to play with your friends, or to be like, well, my guys are the guys guarding the supply dump, and I have a story for them and a concept for them, and your guys are the raiding force, so let's just play that one.
Sounds like it's pretty evocative for players to kind of add their own narrative around it, right, and kind of put a little RPG element to it.
Dallas, one of our painters, he's doing a trencher army with some of our new trencher models, and he's setting them up narratively to be like a prison unit. So very cool. The one guy is like the warden kind of, who's not a prisoner, and he's got a different paint job. And then all the other guys have orange shoulder pads with numbers stenciled on them. And he's calling them the Filthy Five, but there's 6 of them, because one's a dog, and they always forget the dog.
That's awesome.
He's got names for all of them and everything.
Sounds like a great way to kind of bring some of those RPG narrative elements right to the game.
Yeah. And we're going to be supporting it in our leagues. So we're running a league for the next year or so, about every month and a half. There's some, we take some months off, but other things are pretty frequent. And the November league, which the game launches in October, so the first league after that will have some missions that are for Company of Iron specifically, and they will each link to a full War Machine mission. So one of them might be capturing a section of a city. So Company of Iron plays on a 30 by 30 map.
Right.
So you might have to send guys in to capture this strategic square in the city. And then after that, you play a game of War Machine where that square of the city is also on the board, and your Company of Iron Force is in your army, and then the winner of the first game gets affected by the next one. And in No Quarter Prime #1, which is the relaunch of No Quarter reimagined as a more evergreen thing with big chunky articles, that's in September. There's going to be a 3-part mini campaign in there where victory in one game affects your chances of winning the next game. And that one's also very narrative. It's set around the starter box. Mm-hmm. So the Pharaoh Raiders and the Stormblades of Signa are guarding stuff. And the Pharaoh Raiders, in the first mission, have recently knocked over a caravan, and they're running off with a bunch of bags of diamonds.
Wow.
And the Stormblades are trying to catch them. So the one player takes tokens, gives them the models, tries to get from one edge of the board to the other, and the other player splits up the force that they're playing with and deploys it slowly over time from both sides of the table. And then the next mission, the Stormblades have chased the Pharaoh all the way back to their camp, and all the tokens the Pharaoh player managed to get off the board get piled onto 2 objectives. And so the Stormblades are trying to destroy those objectives and destroy the Pharaoh supplies. And the third one, the Pharaoh are angry, so they go to burn down a human village. So you set up 6 buildings on one half of the map and terrain on the other half of the map normally. And then the tokens become torches, and the Pharaoh want to get close enough to a building to throw a torch on it, and there's a chance it might catch fire, and then when they catch 4 buildings on fire, they win the game.
Oh, that is awesome.
So I wanted to build that to give people an example of what they can do narratively.
Right.
Because in one of them, you get the tokens off the next mission, you have those tokens, and then the other one after that, the winner of the previous game gets a bigger deployment zone, so he gets a bit more positioning. And those kind of small things are really, really easy for anyone to do. And then maybe in the future, soon, we'll come up with even bigger, more complicated systems for taking a campaign and telling a story, and maybe even fighting over sections of a map or any of those things.
That's awesome. I'm super excited because, as I mentioned before, I'm a big fan of Widow's Wood. I've seen what you guys can do with the scenarios. And for those who haven't tried Undercity or Widow's Wood, the scenarios in those games are so evocative, so interesting, and they don't feel repetitive in any way. So it sounds like you're bringing a lot of that learnings into this as well.
One of my goals in scenario design especially is just to try to do something new every time.
Yeah.
And if you look at Widow's Wood, there's components in there, in Undercity and all the level 7 games, there's usually a couple of tokens that aren't used in the base game scenarios, because I want tools to work with in the future. So when I put out a No Quarter scenario, then you're like, oh, that's what that thing that was in the base game that I never got to use before now does.
Right. Well, it's awesome. I remember when I was unpacking and putting everything together, there was these little piles of bones. And I'm like, oh, this is going to be cool somewhere. That was awesome. Let me ask you this. So I'm trying to grok all this. I'm putting it all in my head and kind of thinking through how it's going to work. And I'm loving the interactive turn system. I'm a big fan of that in some other systems. And so I'm really looking forward to getting that into my War Machine world. I'm loving the idea of, the card hands helping to balance and offset, different types of model types in the game. And so I imagine there's some kind of catalog on the back of the book that explains.
There's an appendix in the back of the books that will also be a free PDF online that will always be updated. So we're coming out with waves of miniatures now. So Trenchers is rolling out right now, and Northkin, the new Trollblood sub-faction stuff, is coming out later. Every time we put out a big wave of that stuff, we'll update that PDF online. It'll also appear in No Quarter and that kind of stuff.
Now, this is something that probably won't make it into War Room, or do we know yet?
War Room stuff is still under discussion. Okay. So expect soon to hear if War Room will have any integration for Company of Iron. Yeah. I would love it to, and we're talking about it right now, but we got to work out the logistics of all that stuff.
I'm sure it's not. Yeah, I get it. Well, that's really cool. So one thing in my head, though, I'm thinking about, though, is how easy it is to kill some of these guys in War Machine, right? So, so even with a reduced hand size, I'm going to have some units that can just shoot lightning that's going to kill 3 guys in one shot. How do you compensate for that, or do you? Is it a quick game and you play again?
So I compensate for stuff all the time, but not in a bad way. So there's 3 other things I haven't mentioned that affect sort of the balance of the game and sort of the playability. The first thing is when you build a company, you pick a commander. And the commander is a solo, a unit leader, or an officer. And officers and solos usually have more hit points, but unit leaders for one hit units just have 1 hit. So that card automatically gives your commander 5 hit points.
Oh, nice.
So you get a 6 hit point commander or a 10 hit point commander or whatever. And it gives you some other abilities that play around with the card decks. And they're also very evocative. One's the guerrilla leader, one's the master strategist, one's the frontline officer.
This is give them an extra ability as well.
So if you're like, I want my guy to be the guerrilla leader, I'm going to get some little leaves and put them all over his suit so he's more accountable.
And these cards aren't random. You're choosing
choices.
Part of army design.
And they don't cost anything. And there's 6 in the base game. Cool. And that November League is going to have 2 more that you can get just for participating.
Oh, cool.
We've got a promo one coming out pretty soon that people will just be able to grab and play with. And we're going to keep doing those in the future. The second thing that's a big subsystem in the game is called the casualty rolls. So anybody who's played War Machine, like you said, knows the lethality of War Machine. Oftentimes, infantry models get shot with a rifle and they just fall over dead. So we've put in a system that makes the game a bit more casual because it's also a little bit more random. You roll 1 die when a guy would mark his last damage box, when he would fall over dead. If you roll a 1 or 2, he died. That hit him hard enough, got him in the right spot, he really died.
Right.
If you roll a 3 or a 4, he's injured. He's hit hard enough that he's maybe out of the game, but he falls down and he's bleeding. And so you put a little blood drop token next to him that comes in the base game. If you roll a 5 or 6, he's only knocked down. It winged him, it bounced off his helmet, he fell down. So you flip that blood token over to knockdown.
Right.
And then when that model activates again, because maybe it got wounded before it got to activate, you roll that die again. So your guy can bleed out, he can stay there wounded, or he can suddenly be like, I'm brushing myself off, I'm getting back
And that's one of the guys who got the blood token. The knockdown guys just stand back up and they're good to go.
And if any friendly models are base to base with that model, he gets a +1 to that roll. So he only dies on a 1, he stands back, and he's knocked down on a 4, 5, or 6. And tough models, because that's the question people always ask, because everyone's like, well, that's kind of tough for every single model.
Right.
Models with a tough advantage get to re-roll the 1 or 2.
Perfect.
If they're not already wounded or knocked down or those kind of things. So those really tough guys, if they would die in the first roll, they're like, oh, maybe I didn't die.
I love it. It sounds like classic Privateer Press where there's that nice bit of random, so you know what's going to go happen, but there's luck mitigation by having models adjacent, things like that.
Yeah.
Awesome. That's great.
The last little bit, because you mentioned specifically guys shooting guys from across the table. So this plays on a 30 by 30, and some of our guys have 14-inch range guns, and they move 6 inches.
Right.
That's most of that board.
Right.
So narratively, I also want to encourage people to think about these as scouting missions, like an overgrown forest where big warjacks can't even walk around. So there's a thing called long range. It's a new attack penalty. If you target a model more than 8 inches away from you, it's -2 to your attack roll.
Oh, nice.
So that means if your model aims, and this is also a narrative kind of thematic aspect of it, aiming is a +2 to your attack roll.
Right.
So if you're like, I think I see a guy in the trees over there, I'm going to aim and be more careful about my shot, and that compensates for that long range. But it also means guys that are running around the woods and moving and not holding still to aim are not going to be quite as effective at shooting. But you probably have some cards in your hand that give you extra dice, so you'll be like, I really need this guy to run over there and shoot his gun, so I'm going to play this card to give me an extra die in the game.
And as I think it through in my head, it's also less punishing because as a War Machine player, I want to say I just got shot by 6 long gunners, but what's really going to happen is 1 long gunner will shoot me.
Yes.
I will realize how bad my situation is, and I'll have a chance to react and move or shoot back at them.
Yes.
Which is very different. So you kind of got to get your head in a different place.
It's a like I said earlier, the flow of this game is a lot different from a flow of a War Machine.
So it sounds like you want to have really dense terrain, right?
Yes.
What are the recommendations in the game for that?
So it recommends 8 to 10 pieces on a 30 by 30 board.
That's pretty heavy. And if you give size,
if you're going to play with big pieces, you can lower that number. Like if you've got like a great big castle with a wall and stuff, it'll be a lot fewer pieces. But it's generally like nothing bigger than 5 by 5 inches. And then the other encouragement is that at least half those things block line of sight. So forests or buildings or big rocks or whatever. Because even with the long range penalty, guns are still really powerful.
Right.
And then at least some of those things that block line of sight entirely should also block movement. So they should be buildings or something like that. Just to make it more interesting so that it's just not I run across the board straight at you. Like I got to get around this building, or there's this fallen wall, or there's some, a burning. We have other rules for stuff like forests that are on fire and all those kind of things that are from the core game. So a lot of what you already know about War Machine is in this game, but we tweaked and twisted things around and changed a little bit to give you a different experience.
Very cool. That sounds really exciting. Anything else folks should know about Company of Iron?
That's about it. It does come out in October.
Yeah. What's the price point?
It's $75 for the box set. Comes with 2 armies. But the other question we're getting a lot of is, well, I already have a bunch of War Machine armies because I know you and like your daughters and stuff. You have stuff. So we're going to sell the card deck and the rule book separately. We're overprinting those 2 components, and we're going to offer them. We're having to nail down exactly price points and all that stuff and how we're going to distribute it. But we're going to give you a chance, if you're an existing War Machine player who's already invested all his time and money into a full collection, to just get that deck of cards and the rule book and play right away.
And for those not at Gen Con, haven't seen the box, it comes with Signar and the Feral
Stormblades and Feral Brigands.
Cool. Very cool. So I know you're working on a lot of stuff all the time. What other new hotness is coming that you can share with us today?
So if anybody hasn't seen it yet, Grimkin, our brand new faction for Hordes, officially launched at Lock Load, and it's rolling out pretty soon all the way. I think maybe all the models are now on store shelves, or maybe 1 or 2 things are still still coming, but we had it all at the show. And that's our creepy fairy tale faction. All the creepy like things that have been in the RPG for years and years and years are now coming into the game fully and like fighting battles and trying to punish all the wicked people around the world. And then the last exciting thing we're doing is called Mini Crate.
Oh yeah, I saw you guys announce that. That was a big reception there.
So we're gonna do a mystery mini mail order crate service. And they're all going to be, especially the first wave, are going to be twists on existing things we've done. So one of the first models is called the Swamp Siren. So anybody who's familiar with the Minions faction, there's a swamp horde. It's a big octopus thing. Well, the Swamp Siren is kind of a mermaid octopus creature, and she's on a big base. So if you're looking at her as a human scale figure, she's a much, much bigger scale. But she's also playable as a monster in RPGs or in a game of War Machine or whatever. And the other cool thing we're going to do with this is we're going to destroy all the molds after all the fulfillment's done in some spectacular fashion. We want these to be collector pieces, one of a kind, never getting made ever again after that first initial wave. So we're going to make YouTube videos where we stack a bunch of stuff and set it on fire or drive a truck over it or chainsaws or samurai swords or whatever.
And we're giant warjack for this. Sounds like.
Going to keep it interesting and always smash the things in a fun way.
Awesome. So this sounds great. So it's kind of like my daughter's really into Pusheen. She gets the Pusheen box once a month. This is sort of the same kind. I'm getting a really cool model that no one else is going to have unless they're in the program.
You can go to minicrate.com and get information on it. There's also, if you subscribe for a certain amount of time, you get a bonus 6th figure.
Yep.
And you can see the prototypes and the renders of those first few models on the site. We've also shown some concept art for some other stuff. And the biggest exciting thing is we're going to put some beef in the game finally. We've always had the cute girls and all that kind of stuff. We're going to do now, and with this, we're going to put some beefcake guys, some muscly shirtless guys doing exciting things in the game too.
Oh, very cool, very cool. I'm looking forward to seeing some of those. This is great.
Yep. And that's about it. We've got some other stuff we're going to be announcing soon and talking about in bigger ways, but that's all the things that we're focusing on at Gen Con.
Great. Well, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule today to join us on the show. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, I always like talking to you. We haven't very, very often talked on mic, but we always...
No, we always say hi every time, and I'm looking forward to. I'll be grabbing company if Iron hits the streets, and looking forward to it.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
This is Total Fangirl. Regular Jane most days, total fangirl when the moment strikes. Han shot first. Starbuck is a guy. And Lestat, now there's a vampire. Hey everyone, this is Nicole, your Total Fangirl. You can follow me on Twitter at Nicole Wakeland and check out my blog, TotalFangirl.com. Our shout out is to all of our wonderful supporters over at Patreon. Head to patreon.com/the D6 Generation and you too can support the show. So another Gen Con is in the books. This episode is all Gen Con all the time, so you get Play by Mob and all sorts of Gen Con coverage. And it was the 50th anniversary of Gen Con, which is a big, fat, hairy deal. And as far as I know, the first time that Gen Con has ever sold out, which is really exciting and also a little scary because your first thought is, wow, cool, they sold out. And then it's like, wow, cool, they sold out. How many people are going to be in there? And it was a little sketchy the very first day, Thursday, which is normally only crazy in the first moments when things open because everyone's rushing for that must-have game that there are only 2 copies of that you are forced to fight to the death to get. And then it normally, peters out and everything kind of calms down. But that first day, it was mob the whole day. And I was a little bit nervous. But things eased up a little bit. They got their air conditioning woes, which were tough that first day. They got those under control. And it was a fantastic Gen Con. There were lots of great games debuted. There were lots of demos to play. Some great cosplay. It was a lot of fun. And, of course, the favorite part for me is always Play by Mob. And big thank you to everybody who showed up for that. We had a great crowd. There were a whole bunch of really good sports. We had some returning favorite people. Good to see again. And we also had some new players there. A couple families with their kids that came from outside the U.S. were like, we got to go to the Play by Mob. That's always really cool to see people that are that enthusiastic. And I have to tell you what my funniest moment of the entire Play by Mob was, and probably a lot of you didn't see it even if you were there, and even if you've listened to the entire thing. So we give out all these games during the course of the mob, people who answer a question and participate, and we basically try to clean out all the games that Russ and Craig have managed to accumulate through the year and that are spilling into our homes. So we have a ton of stuff to get rid of. And some of these games are new. Some of these games have been played. The guys played them, so they've been play tested. It's not like they're all new in the box. Some of them have been played a couple of times. But Russ cannot open a box and play it without then very carefully organizing it. Like it has to be. It doesn't matter whether he's going to keep this game or not. It must be organized, which means that some of these games that we gave away, when you took the lid off of the box, it wasn't just a bunch of tokens and dice and cards all just in their little slots or maybe with like a rubber band around them or in a plastic bag. No, Russ had bought Plano boxes and had like Plano boxed some of these and put them, all this token here and all that token there. And then here's a spot for the cards and here's a spot for the dice. And he put those right inside of the boxes when he gave them away. And the funniest moment of the entire thing was to me when I was walking out and there were a group of people looking at the game or one of the games that they had chosen from the loot pile during Play by Mob. And they're like, oh, wow, that's great. And they open it up and they realize there's a Plano box. It's like, whoa, it's Plano'd. Like, that was the highlight of the thing. Like, they were so amazed. It was like, forget the game. It's already organized. So that totally cracked me up. Then they opened another one. Oh, it's another one. They're Plano'd. So I don't think Russ realized that not only were the games the hit, the mere fact that he organized them and got his obsessive compulsive disorder going on there made people very, very happy. So thank you to everyone who came out for Play by Mob. We cannot wait till next year.
Hey, now it's time to talk about our friends at Geek Nation Tours, and we're just getting off the Gen Con tour. Craig and I are back, and of course, Geek Nation Tours was there. There is not a geek event going on around the world. Ne'er I say that Geek Nation Tours is not present, bringing passionate geeks to their passions. And one of the things that's always fun about Terrace and the folks there is they find the best places to stay. So we were at Gen Con, and I was really impressed where they chose this year. They were staying at Le Meridien, which is this little hotel, kind of a boutique hotel, really nice. But it's right in the heart of Indianapolis, literally across the street from the Ram. So all the craziness going on there, you can see it was like right next to the food truck. So you could walk out, go to a food truck, then walk right into the convention center. Closest hotel to the vendor hall I've ever stayed at. Just really a great experience. And I would have never, you drive around, you don't even see the sign for this hotel. You'd have to really have known where you were going, what you were looking for, to have found it there. And that's the kind of stuff that Terrace does and Geek Nation Tours brings to the gamers. You're going on these tours with like-minded folks, with people who are just as passionate as you are. Check out these tours coming up. Don't miss Adepticon this year. Craig and I are going to be there, of course, as well. Adepticon out in the spring of 2018. Check that out. Don't miss their Japan tour. They got tours featuring the shots of where they film Game of Thrones. It's just, you name it. Doctor Who, NASA, history tours. They've got them all. So head on over to geeknationtours.com, click on the tours page, and learn all about it.
You're listening to the Dice Tower Network at dicetowernetwork.com. More fun than Merchant of Venus. Wait, what? Who writes these?
Welcome back, and now it's time for this year's Play by Mob from Gen Con 50, Gen Con 2017. Now, I thought this one needed a little introduction because we got kind of a couple technical difficulties, kept us a little distracted during the start of the session, and so we didn't quite introduce it properly. For those who are not familiar with Play by Mob, it was recorded live at Gen Con, and what we do is we ask the entire audience to divide up into 4 groups, 4 different teams, and based on the attendance there, these are typically teams of about 20 to 30 people. And then in each team, they're going to think of a team name, a battle cry, and then we're going to ask them to compete against each other in some form of crazy game. And you'll hear more about the game being described here in Play by Mob. And there's a giant tub of prizes in the front of the room, which are given away throughout the event for teams and people who do well throughout the thing. So it's kind of it's not too serious, but it's kind of serious. The folks seem to really get into this year. So This one had a little more visual component, so you'll hear some references to people looking at the screen and moving things around. Hopefully it translated well to audio, but I look forward to your feedback on this one and letting me know which of the different formats, because we do a different format for our Play by Mob every year. It's kind of a surprise, and I'm always sort of trying to struggle between making it extremely fun for the folks who've taken time out of their convention to be there, but also making sure, or as fun as it can be, I should say, and then also making sure or trying to make sure that it's enjoyable to listen to as well. And that can sometimes be a little tricky. So this year we had a little more visuals, and hopefully it translates. So please let me know what you think. And without further ado, Play by Mob 2017.
The game is called Consecution. Does anyone know what Consecution means?
Person who's ever heard of that word before?
It's a real word.
I looked.
It's a real word, folks.
Says Russ.
It means to arrange things in some form of order, right? So all will become clear. All will become clear later. So
many of you are going to recognize this game when he describes it.
Yes. So the next thing you need to do is think of a battle cry with your team name.
So each team is going to need a name, and we'll be recording your score based on your name. You will also need a short, pithy, easy to yell chant or cheer that we're going to be asking you to do for purposes of initiative and tie breaking and things like that. So come up with something short and quick.
I think I'm afraid of what those guys just came up with.
Yeah, that back
There's
group right
some
there.
hearty laughter in the back.
That looks like it might be trouble.
All right. The first rule of Consecution, as you think of your team names, is no internet usage. So you are on your honor as gamers to not Google or otherwise look up any answers, okay? That's just to come from the heart and the mind, not the internet, all right? Cool. So have we got team names, everyone?
Who has a team name? Does anybody
Raise
have
your
one?
hand if your team has a name.
All right.
Okay, we've
let's hear those team names.
How we doing?
How we doing? Okay. Yeah, go ahead.
Our team name is the Consecutionists.
The Consecutionists.
The Consecutionists.
Well, they're going to be good at this. They're going to be good at this. All right, excellent.
You going to write me to write that?
We're going to ask them in a minute. All right. Who else has got a team name?
Do you need their battle cry?
What's your battle cry, Consecutionists? Grease pencils is the battle cry for the Consecutionists.
Let's hear the battle cry.
That's pretty impressive.
Okay,
I'm not
you
going
guys,
to lie.
you're still working. That corner's really working hard.
All right,
okay,
nicely
come over
done.
here. Who wants to speak over here?
The GM's girlfriend.
The GM's girlfriend.
Oh, God. And what is the battle cry? Nice.
All right.
Okay, who's ready in this group? Who wants to?
Chair Army.
Hey, Chair Army works. And your battle cry?
All right. So I'm going to review the names again. So Team 1, your name was the Consecutionists. All right. And then Team 2, your name was GM's girlfriend. And Team 3, your name was Chair Army. Oh, that's pretty good. All right. What's Team 4's name?
We are Hawking's Revenge.
Hawking's Revenge.
Oh,
nice.
Lord. And your battle
That is
cry?
a callback.
That's a throwback.
Wow.
Oh, we got
And
so
Hawking's
much trouble
Revenge.
last
Got it.
time. Okay.
All right, excellent. So what we have to do now is we'll do a quick. So we need a team to get initiative. So to do this, we're going to ask all of you to give us a really good battle cry, and then Nicole will judge which team has the best battle cry, and then therefore gets initiative. All right. Now, whilst you're thinking of really working your battle cry up, let me go through the reviews. So once you do your battle cry, we'll have completed step 1 of setup, which is determine your priority and get your battle cry.
This is a little idea into what the bullet points look like when Russ sets up
Yes.
a segment.
Now, then each round we're going to be revealed a category. And this category, yes, reveal. Yes. Spelling is hard for engineers, just saying.
Oh, God, did you really?
And you'll be asked to
wanted to
put
give
things
you
in
the full
order, okay?
experience.
And what you're going to do is for each round, each team's going to send up a champion, and that champion will serve your team. And we're going to rotate the champions, and each champion will get to pick a prize. Although a lot of prizes were scored in achievements, but there's still many prizes left. So okay, and this will all become clear after the very first round, which is easier than the later rounds. All right. And one thing to know is that the person that goes first has an easier job, but you'll get less points than the person that goes last because if you put your thing in the right order, you'll get the number of points equal to the cards remaining on the screen. This will all become clear as soon as you show the first screen. All right. So let's do our battle
You guys
cries
follow
here.
all of that?
Yeah. This will work out. Trust me. So, all right. So ready for your battle cries, everyone? Let's go start with each team. Nicole, let's get some battle cries and see who's got initiative.
First, Chair Army, who I'm pointing at. Chair Army.
Oh, the Chair Army's pretty good.
Pretty aggressive.
In the back.
Nice.
Okay.
Okay, let's jump across the aisle. And way up in the front.
Oh, very good. Very
Not
good.
an easy call.
All right,
Good
Nicole,
luck.
who did the best
I
there?
think I have to give it to grease pencils because how do you yell that with that much enthusiasm?
All right, so grease pencils. So grease pencils has initiative, then it'll proceed clockwise. So what we need to do is each team needs to send up a champion for this round. Now, before you do, thank you. Yeah, that's right. The other way. Thank you very much. So it's going to go, you guys
Stage
are second.
left, stage
Right.
right.
I'll leave that amongst yourselves to figure that out. So what the plan is here is, let me explain this to you in the first round. It'll become clear. So what we've got here is our first category is how old is it? Now we have two things on the screen here showing how old it is. Warhammer Fantasy Battle was released in 1983. Pathfinder, the role-playing game, was in 2009. The first player from the lead team is going to come up here, and he or she is going to be revealed a game, and they're going to have to place it in the right order of these cards, either before Warhammer Fantasy Battle, between Warhammer Fantasy Battle and Pathfinder, or after, right? And if you get the placement correct, you will score the number of points that are currently on the screen. So, for example, if the person from the Consecutionists gets it correctly, they will have 3 points. The later team will get more points, but it's a harder guess because there's more cards to try to find the right spot for it. Does that make sense? All right, the audience is figuring it out. Great, good job, Mob. All right, so Consecutionists, you must send up your champion. And Nicole, you'll need to be the microphone for them when they do. All right, who's your champion, Consecutionists? Come on up to the microphone.
Alex.
All right, Alex. Here we go. You ready? Alex, your game is Dune. Was Dune released before Warhammer Fantasy Battle, between Warhammer Fantasy Battle and Pathfinder, or after Pathfinder?
That's the game Dune.
The game Dune,
Is he
not the
allowed
movie
to get feedback from
or the
his
book.
group? Is it just him?
It's just him, all by himself. He's out there. No
No
pressure.
pressure.
Between. He says between. Is he correct?
Good answer.
Oh, Dune was released in 1979. Sadly, so no points for the Consecutionist. I'm sorry about that. Good effort, though. Good effort there. All right, it's time now for the. This is the Hawking's Revenge team, and is Dominion the card game. Dominion the card game. Was it before Dune, after Dune, but before Warhammer Fantasy Battles, after Warhammer Fantasy or Pathfinder, or after Pathfinder? That would be Dominion the card game. What do you think? He's thinking hard here.
I think in between Pathfinder and Warhammer.
He says in between. It was 2008. You're correct, sir.
Aye.
Woo! So that means
4 points for Hawking Revenge.
4 points for Hawking's Revenge. Nicely done, Hawking's Revenge. All right, up next. Go take a prize. If you get it right, you get a prize. Come on, if you participate, get a prize. Come on in. All right.
We're all about participation.
Our champion from the GM's girlfriend. The game is Infinity, the miniatures game.
Between 83 and 08.
So he's saying it's after Warhammer Fantasy Battle, but before Dominion the card game. Is he correct? 2005 is correct. Well played, sir.
5 points to the GM's girlfriend.
5 points for the GM's girlfriend. Maybe she'll stop being bored.
She's not bored anymore.
Right, nice. All right, have you got your champion there from the Chair Army? All right.
Old man for an old
All right, now be careful here. When was Dark Tower the game? When was Dark Tower the game released? Was it before or after Dune, the board game? After Warhammer Fantasy Battle? We've got listeners on audio, so I'm kind of helping them out. Before Dominion, after Dominion, but before Infinity, or after Infinity, but before Pathfinder, or after Pathfinder? That's a Dark Tower board game.
I'm fairly confident since my brother's playing this tomorrow. It was after Dune, before Warhammer.
Ooh, after Dune, but before Warhammer. And the answer is Dark Tower was released in 1981. That is correct.
Nice.
Wow.
Like a sniper.
Big score.
Well done.
For the Chair Army, they score 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 points. Oof. Well done. Well done.
Well done.
All right. Moving on to the next category. Okay, so now we're going to rotate the first team one. Okay? So since the best you could have done was the lowest point, so now the next first team is no longer the Chair Army. No longer Consecutionists. Now it rotates one. They're the first team. Make sense? So the Consecutions, you could score maximum points this round, but you got to go last, so it's harder. And we're going to play at least 4 rounds, so everybody has a chance at a different position in the round. Does it make sense? See, we're all about fairness here in the D6 generation. So that's our thing here.
All about it.
All right. Here we go. Moving on. Next category is how big a play area. Whoops. How big a play area here is the next category. Let's go ahead and flip it here. There it is. That is how big a play area. And as you can see.
No, go back, Russ.
That's how long a read.
Whoops, sorry.
Skipped a screen.
There we go. How big a play area? All right, this is how big is the gaming area? Not how much table space do you need to play the entire game, but rather how big of a playing area do you need? So, have you got a champion over there before we reveal the first card? All right.
And who are you, sir?
I'm Chris from Richmond.
Chris from Richmond, nice. And Chris, you are playing for Hawking's Revenge, right? Excellent, Hawking's Revenge. The category is Dead Zone. Now, the games that are on the screen so far here, Settlers of Catan is roughly 18 inches by 24 inches of play area. X-Wing Miniatures is 36 by 36. Dead Zone, where does Dead Zone fit? Is it
smaller?
Smaller than Settlers, bigger than Settlers, but smaller than X-Wing, or bigger than X-Wing?
I've not played this one, but I believe it's larger than X-Wing.
Larger than X-Wing, he says. I'm sorry, it's 24 by 24. It is between X-Wing and Settlers of Catan. Good guess, though. Sadly, no score for Hawking's Revenge. All right, up next is our friends at the GM's Girlfriend, Railroad Tycoon, my friend. How big of a play area does Railroad Tycoon require? Is it more than Settlers?
Family show.
But less than Dead Zone, more than Dead Zone, or more than X-Wing? More than Dead Zone, but less than X-Wing for Railroad Tycoon. Survey says it is 36 by 45. Railroad Tycoon is known as one of the largest board games ever made. Unfortunately, it is bigger than X-Wing. No points for the GM's Girlfriend.
I have a question.
Yes.
Where are you coming up with these numbers?
These are the actual measurements of the game boards.
Oh, okay.
Or the play surface required in the miniature game.
Gotcha.
These are actual. All right. Up next, from our friends at the Chair Army, the game is War Machine. Is it bigger than Settlers, but less than Dead Zone? Bigger than Dead Zone, but less than X-Wing? Bigger than X-Wing, but less than Railroad Tycoon? Or is it bigger than a Railroad Tycoon? War Machine. Or Hordes. Bigger than a Railroad Tycoon. That is correct. It is 48 by 48. Oh, big score for the Chair Army. The Chair Army scores 5 points.
11 points.
11 points for the Chair Army. Now, here's a chance for a big score for our friends over there at the Consecutionists. Pandemic Legacy Season 1. Does it fall? Is it bigger than Settlers, but smaller than Dead Zone? Bigger than Dead Zone, but smaller than X-Wing? Bigger than X-Wing, but smaller than Railroad Tycoon? Bigger than Railroad Tycoon, but smaller than War Machine? Or is it even bigger than War Machine? Pandemic Legacy, where does it fall? Gets harder near the end of the round, doesn't it?
Between Settlers of Catan and Dead Zone.
Between Settlers of Catan and Dead Zone. What is the actual answer here? 19 by 30. 570. It is just smaller than Dead Zone square inches.
Nice.
You are correct. Woo! 1, 2, 3, 4.
That was
6
awesome.
points for the Consecutionists. That puts the Consecutionists on the board and in the game. Well played there, sir.
In second place.
Yeah, well, very well played. All right. Now we're going to move one more for the new starting team. Is this all making sense now, everybody, how this is working here? All right, getting in the groove.
This one has something to do with books.
Yeah. How long a read is this one? So this one's about books. All right, little sound effect there for everybody. Here we go. How long a read? We bring the scores in for everyone here. All right. So now we're looking at the first 2 books. This is the page count of these books. So Leviathan Wakes up here by James S.A. Corey. That is a 582-page book. Also, we have War of Honor by David Weber, former third chair, at 880 pages. Pretty hefty read. Have you got a champion over there, our friends and GM's Girlfriend? You ready? Okay.
Yes.
Your book is A Dance with Dragons by George R.R. Martin.
Longer than War of Honor.
Is that longer than Leviathan Wakes, but shorter than War of Honor? Longer than War of Honor.
It is longer than War of Honor.
Is it? It is indeed.
Longer than War and Peace.
140 pages. 3 points for the GM's Girlfriend, bringing them to 8. Oh, yeah. If you've already, give it to someone who's got a prize there from your team. Be so kind.
Someone from your team can come up.
Yes. All righty. Ready for your...
Ready.
Ready Player One by Ernest Klein. The team chair here. Is it smaller than Leviathan Wakes, but larger than Leviathan Wakes, but shorter than War of Honor? Longer than War of Honor, but shorter than Dance with Dragons, or longer than Dance with Dragons? This is Ready Player One. Also going to be a movie soon.
Shorter than Leviathan Wakes.
Shorter than Leviathan Wakes, he says. Craig thinks he's correct. You are correct, sir. 384 pages. 4 points.
Well done.
For Chair. Chair is at 15, and they are very passionate. All right. Now, up from the Consecutionists here, Stormfront by Jim Butcher. Reading a lot of Dresden lately, so this is near and dear to me. Stormfront, is it shorter or longer than Ready Player One, but shorter than Leviathan Wakes, longer than Leviathan Wakes, but shorter than War of Honor, longer than War of Honor, but shorter than Dance with Dragons, or longer than Dance with Dragons? Stormfront.
Shorter than Leviathan Wakes.
Shorter than Leviathan Wakes. You're
Longer
saying it's
than
over
Ready
here,
Player One.
right in between these two. The actual answer is 322 pages. That is not correct. I'm sorry. It is shorter than Ready Player One.
That's where I would have put it.
All right. So, unfortunately, no score for the Consecutionists. Now, last but certainly not least, is Hawking's Revenge. The book is The Gunslinger. Much better than the movie. Just throwing that out there. By Stephen King.
Okay, it's Stephen King, so it's going to be big. But I'll go War of Honor and Leviathan Wakes.
All right, you're saying it's longer than Leviathan Wakes, but shorter than War of Honor. Am I correct about that? All right, is that your final answer? All right, the answer is 224. 224. The series is long. The books get longer, but the first, kind of a trick question. Not going to lie. A little bit tricky there. All right, round 3. So at the end of round 3, the chair army had a commanding lead with 15 points, followed by the GM's girlfriend at 8, followed by the Consecutionists at 6, and last but certainly not least is Hawking's Revenge at 4. All right, starting now. Chair Army's coming up. The next category here for the Chair Army is how big a hit? How big a hit? This one is about movies, folks. How big
let's
of a
see
hit?
if Russ used this as just a chance to take a hit on a movie he didn't like.
We'll see. All right. So this is total gross here. So we got Wonder Woman is the first category up. It's going to be the Chair Army going first this time. Wonder Woman's on the list here at $794.6 million US. And on the top side here is Rogue One at 1 point. Oh, the chairs are ready. Are you? All right, here we go. Your movie is Pirates of the Caribbean, Dead Men Tell No Tales. Has it made Wonder Woman? More than Wonder Woman, less than Rogue One, or more than Rogue One?
I know they make more money than how good they are. I know that.
They keep making them. That must be the reason.
That's true. Which one was that?
Uh-huh.
I'm going to do lower than Rogue One because that IP.
But greater than Wonder Woman. It actually made less than Wonder Woman. I'm sorry. No points. Yeah, good point. All right. Pick a champion there, gentlemen. All right, don't forget a prize there. All right, now we're on. So the Chair Army did not score. So the leader is now stumbled. There's a chance to catch up to him here. So up here from now our friends at, Consecutionists, Spider-Man Homecoming. Where does Spidey fall? Less than Pirates? More than Pirates but less than Wonder Woman? More than Wonder Woman less than Rogue One? Or more than Rogue One?
I believe it's between Wonder Woman and Rogue One.
Between Wonder Woman and Rogue One. Spidey, how'd he do? He did not. I'm sorry. Spider-Man did less than Wonder Woman, and less than Pirates. So Pirates actually is done more than Spidey. All right. Up next is our friends at not a high-scoring round this time. The movies are tough. Doing a hard time. All right. Hawking's Revenge. The movie is Logan. Logan. How do you think Logan did?
I'm going to say in between Spider-Man and Pirates.
Between Spider-Man and Pirates. Logan did, let's see here, like clicking his weak sauce. Logan did less than Spider-Man. Oh, a tough scoring round here. Not a lot of score happening in the movie category. Here we go. All right. Last but not least, Kong Skull Island. Our friends over there, the GM's girlfriend. What do you think? How did Kong Skull Island do?
I'm going to go between Logan and Spider-Man Homecoming.
So you're saying better than Logan, but not as good as Spidey. And Skull Island was, oh no, 566. It is the lowest of all. A zero scoring round for the mob that time. Tough round in the movie category. Oh, does that reflect the Game Master in any way?
Was in.
All right, wow.
Bogus.
All right, now, so I wanted to make sure there was enough time for everybody to get a turn in the different spots because obviously there's scoring maximization. So now we're going to go on. If we didn't do an even number of rounds, right, it wouldn't be fair to all the teams. So now we're going to go on to the bonus round. So I don't know if we're going to have time to get in all 4 bonus rounds, but I think we will. So I think but if we don't, I think the thing to do is the last place team should get to choose which team starts in the next round to help catch things up, right? And we'll get as many rounds as we can in before they kick us out. All right. Now here's the thing: the current last place team is the Hawking's Revenge. So Hawking's Revenge. Since you are in last place, I will give you the added bonus of knowing the category. So we're in the bonus rounds here. The category is going to be days to binge it.
Oh.
All right. So how many episodes of a given television show, with the lowest being Firefly at 14 episodes, the highest here is currently shown as Grimm at 123. Show just wrapped up. 123. So before you see the card for you, who would you like to be the first team to start? So anticipating where you're going to be. All right. So they're going to let the GM's girlfriend go first, which makes them last for maximum score. I like how you think. Go big or go home. I like it. All right. Let me copy the scores forward here and be ready to start.
It does.
All right. Here we go. Setting the teams up here. All right. Ready? The girlfriend's getting bored, so we better start up here. Here we go. Girlfriend, Star Trek The Next Generation. Is it more episodes than Firefly? Duh. But less episodes than Grimm or more episodes than Grimm? Star Trek The Next Generation. Think carefully. Answer your question.
More than Grimm.
More than Grimm. Here we go. That is correct. 178. So our friends at the GM 3, so they're up to 11 now. All right. Ready for the Chair Army?
Okay.
The Chair Army has selected their champion.
Ooh.
Their category is Babylon 5. Was it
seasons.
more than Firefly but less than Grimm, more than Grimm but less than Next Gen, or more than Next Gen?
5 seasons, about 20 episodes a season, puts it between Firefly and Grimm.
Some quick math there says it's between Firefly and Grimm. I like the way he thinks. Let's find out. He is correct at 110. Nicely done. 4 points. 4 points for the Chair. The Chair just moved to 19, a hefty lead. All right. Ready for champion there? All right. The X-Files. The X-Files. Is it more than Firefly but less than Bad 5, more than Bad 5 but less than Grimm but less than Next Gen, or more than Next Gen? This is the X-Files.
Good question.
It's whatever Wikipedia says for total episode count.
Exactly.
So there you go.
I think it's going to be between Grimm and the Star Trek Next Generation.
Between Grimm and Next Generation, the X-Files was 208. Sadly, you're incorrect. It is the highest show so far.
Okay, now we get to see if Hawking's revenge strategy
Can Hawking's
played
revenge
out.
get the maximum score here? Have you got a champion? Have we got a champion? The show is Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
We got
Buffy the Vampire
We
Slayer.
got 7 seasons, but the first season was only 12 episodes because it was.
We got a knowledgeable chap here.
So it's 6.5 seasons. Actually,
Wait.
so
You must give your answer like a Swedish chef.
Oh, it was a 6 seasons, and because there was a half a replacement. I'm turning Jamaican there.
You sound a bit Jamaican.
Which is mildly racist, but never mind. So we got 12 episodes in the first season, and there were 22 episodes in each of the following seasons, which is 132 plus 12, making it 144, putting it between Star Trek and Grimm.
Between Star Trek and Grimm for Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Answer is 144. Wow! Amazing math.
Exactly.
1, 2, 3, 4.
You got to give him a bonus number. They need a bonus point for getting the exact number.
Wow, that is awesome. Catapulting Hawking's Revenge into third place. All right.
Nicely done.
Well played.
I would have given you a bonus point.
All right. Well done. All right. To the next round. Now, we don't know how many we're going to get in, so I want to keep making sure that last place, which is now the Constitutionist. You get to choose which will be team number 1. Let me give you the category here. The category is, here we go, ready? The best deal on Amazon. They on Amazon and was able to find their prices. So the starting price is Sparkle at $9.35 and Risk Legacy at $41.99. All right, Hawking's
No
Revenge.
Amazon app.
Who is the starting team here? Or Constitutionist. Hawking's Revenge is going to be the starting. All right, are you ready? Here we go. Your category is, I did. Oops, I messed up the scores. That's what confused me. Fixing the scores now. Scores are repaired. There we go. It's high tech. All right, here we go. So the Hawking's Revenge is starting, and your game is Scythe. Is it more than Farkle but less than Risk Legacy, or more than Risk Legacy on Amazon? Best deal that Russ on Amazon. Hawking's Revenge.
I'd say it's more than Red Legacy.
More than Risk Legacy? That is correct. 64-29. You score 3 points for Hawking's Revenge. Now up 13. All right. Up next, you guys got a champion over there. GM's
Sadly,
girlfriend.
the prize table has been depleted.
Yes,
now
well
you're
done.
Just playing for fun.
Now we're playing for fun and brag.
There is one
There's-
blister of tokens. If anybody plays Halo, the space game,
And
you
if
can
no one
just
takes it, if you got Halo, take it.
You?
All right, there you go. All right. So GM's girlfriend, Starflux. Is Starflux less than Farkle, more than Farkle but less than Risk, more than Risk but less than Scythe, or is Starflux actually more expensive than Scythe? Not that the audience has an opinion.
I'm going just more than Farkle.
Just more than Farkle. This is a tricky one because Farkle's an interesting number. Starflux is $9.77. Just more than Farkle is correct.
Indeed, just more than Farkle.
That brings the GM's girlfriend to 10 points. Well played. All right, moving on. I'm glad we got the projector working. You can see how hard this would be without the projector. Did I? I did. I'm sorry. There we go. My bad. You're at 15 now, right? Did I get that right? All right. Good eye back there. Well played. All right. It was a test. All right. Now, for our friends in the chair, your game is Captain Sonar. Pretty popular right now. Captain Sonar is at more than Farkle but less than Starflex, more than Starflex but less than Risk Legacy, more than Risk Legacy but less than Scythe, or in fact more than Scythe. Remember, it's the best price I could find on Amazon. Who knows what they're thinking out there?
So I don't know what this game is.
Between Starflux and Risk Legacy.
That's your best chance. Big spread right there.
Answer is, it is not between Starflux. It's between Risk Legacy and Scythe. It was $48.07. That brings our friends, the Consecutionists, they got Blood Rage. Is it more than Farkle, less than Starflux, more than Starflux, less than Risk Legacy, more than Risk Legacy, less than Captain Sonar, or more than Captain Sonar, but less than Scythe, or even more than Scythe?
Between Captain Sonar and Scythe.
Between Captain Sonar and Scythe. Answer is, it is $59. 6 points for the Consecutionists. Oh, but preserving their position in last place, which means you guys get the choice again of who's got priority. See, it's called catch-up mechanic. It's a catch-up mechanic. All right. So who are you picking again? Same guys. You feeling confident? The category is how many cards do I start with? This is a pet peeve of mine. I really want to know the starting hand size in every game, and they don't always see how you guys know with this. Here we go. Now, our samples here on cards to start with. Flux is a starting hand of 3, even though it changes dramatically in the game. And Magic the Gathering, as everyone knows, is 7. Are you ready over there? Revenge. Are you ready? Here we go. Your game is Texas Hold'em. Starting hand size in Texas Hold'em, less than
Curveball.
More than Flux, less than Magic the Gathering, more than Magic the Gathering.
Less than Flux?
Less than Flux, he says. Is he correct? Of course he is. Texas Hold'em's a 2-card hand. Well done. 3 points to Hawking's Revenge, bringing him to 16. All right. Are you ready over there? GM's girlfriend. Yours is Dominion. More than Texas Hold'em, less than Flux, more than Flux, less than Magic the Gathering, more than Magic the
More than Flux, less than Magic the Gathering.
Oh, excellent call. Let's see if he's correct.
3 and 7.
It is 5. Well done, sir. 4 points for the GM's girlfriend, catapulting them into a tie for first place. Who'd have thought that was coming? But here comes the Chair Army to try to break that tie. Ready, Chair Army? Oh, they've got a crowd. Cards Against Humanity. Ooh. More than Texas Hold'em, less than Flux, more than Flux, less than Dominion, more than Dominion, less than Magic, more than Magic. Cards Against Humanity. Where are you saying?
I'm going to go with more than Magic.
More than Magic the Gathering is... Wait, a little technical difficulty here. Whoops. It is more than Magic the Gathering. The Chair Army scores 5 points. Well done. All right, guys, Consecutionists, here we go. Malifaux second hand size. Here we go.
Between Dominion and Magic the Gathering.
Between Dominion and Magic the Gathering, he says. Is he correct? He is correct. Woo! All right. The Consecutionists go up to 18. Right? Is that right?
That's right.
All right. So now, last place is now Hawking's Revenge. Hawking's Revenge, you get to choose the initiative for the final round. This is the final round of the evening. This is all I got for cards. Ready? Here we go. All right. The category is... All right, here we go. Category is... How many dice do I get? How many dice come in the game? Yahtzee starts with 5. Marvel Dice Masters Age of Ultron comes with 44. How many dice do I get? All right. Are we ready? Ready over there? Your game over there, GM's girlfriend, is the D&D starter set. Is it more than Yahtzee, less than Marvel Dice Masters, or more Marvel Dice Masters?
More than Yahtzee.
More than Yahtzee, he says. He is correct. It's 6 dice. 3 points for the GM's girlfriend. 22. All right. Okay, Chair Army. Your game is Star Wars Imperial Assault. Oh, nice. All right. Star Wars Imperial Assault. More than Yahtzee, less than D&D. More than D&D, but less than Marvel Dice Masters, or more than Dice Masters.
Not a game I'm familiar with, but having seen it played, I would guess it's more than D&D starter set and less than Marvel.
He's saying more than D&D, less than Marvel. That is correct. That's going to be 4 points. 4 points for the Chair Army at 28. Their lead is seemingly insurmountable, but who can say? All right.
Math could say.
Who can predict the future? No one knows. All right. Consecutionists, you could do a miracle here. It could happen. Have we got a champion over there? Who's our champion? Someone's got to be a champion. All right. They've got a champion. Your game is Zombie Dice. All right. Zombie Dice. More than Yahtzee, less than D&D. More than D&D, less than Star Wars Imperial Assault. More than Star Wars, less than Dice Masters. More than Dice Masters in the Zombie Dice game.
I'm going to say between the D&D starter set and Imperial Assault.
So between the D&D starter set and Imperial Assault, answer is, it is 13 dice. Oh, crap. Moment did not work out. So, all right, our final champions over here. Final round goes to the, all right, guys, Space Cadets Dice Duel. Space for Hawking's Revenge. Is that more than Yahtzee, less than D&D? More than D&D, less than Star Wars? More than Star Wars, less than Zombie Dice? More than Zombie Dice, less than Marvel? Or more than Dice Masters?
Between Zombie and Marvel.
Between Zombie and Marvel, Dice Duel comes with 50 dice. It's more than Marvel. Oh.
And that's Chair Army.
And Chair Army takes it home.
Well done. Well done.
Thank you, Chair Army.
Well deserved.
And thank you, Mob, for coming to Gen Con.
Thank
Play
you
by
very
Mob.
much.
Well done. Well,
Hope you have a good Gen Con.
I hope you do. That one much quicker than I thought. You guys did a very good job playing by Mob. Do you have any questions or do any Q&A here at the end so we have time left over? Despite our technical challenges and other things. We got a question here in the audience. Nicole, you want to give that man a mic?
Well, it's a question or a complaint, a jokey complaint.
Sure.
I found D6 Generation Episode 1 when I searched for it, as you published it, because I was playing the miniatures game Rapid Fire.
Oh. There's one of those? I didn't even know there's one of those. Well, I'm glad you stumbled upon us. That was. We'd like to claim.
Worked.
We would like to claim that was clever SEO, but it really wasn't. Nicely done. Good little note. Any other questions for us, or should we head back to the? Could you do so? But
A question before anybody leaves. If any of you guys have tickets, can you hand us the tickets?
Yes, please bring tickets. And also, if you did not get a D6G button, there's some up here.
for
Please
everybody.
take a button before you go. Also.
The chairs win anything.
Well, you've already got your prizes.
All
An
the
extra
glory.
button.
The chairs
But you already
win
got the
all the
prizes. So the
glory.
prizes went faster than we thought, which is excellent. So well done there also.
Yep.
So thanks again. Really appreciate
Thanks,
it.
guys.
I hope you had a
Thank
great Gen
you.
Con.
Have a good weekend. This Jever Notice is brought to you by all of our friends at Patreon. The men, the women, the boys, the girls, the cats, the dogs. Everybody who helps us keep this show running from one episode to the next. And today, that group would include Ian Betts, David Blood, Edward Boardman, Jacob Borsma, and Luke Bolin. Thank you. And thank everybody who's helped us keep the show going. Did you ever notice how hard it is to keep track of anything when everything seems to be falling apart? I am going to apologize this episode to everybody that I ran into at Gen Con because my head really wasn't in the game. Patrons already know this. I talked a lot more about it in the see, my brain is completely fried in the Lost Chapter that came out before this episode, briefly, moments before this episode, because Gen Con kind of throws a wrench into the recording schedule. But I was really distracted this Gen Con, which is a shame because it was huge. It was Gen Con 50. I so wish I had gone to the museum that Russ talked about, where they talk about Gen Con through the ages in a little reconstructed version of where they first had it out in the football field. I wish I'd done so many things. This is the first time that I've gone to Gen Con where I feel like I've missed out on a bunch of stuff. I wish I had done this is crazy. True Dungeon. I wish I'd been able to demo more, although I'm not. I think I did a pretty good job of the vendor hall, so I'm not sure I missed much there. I'm sure I missed some little gems here or there, but I pretty much demoed what I wanted to demo in there, at least the ones that I was able to get to. I mean, I don't think it was my fault that I couldn't demo Star Wars Legion because it was crazy. I don't think it was my fault that I couldn't demo A Song of Ice and Fire because it was crazy, although sadly that may well have cost them a Kickstarter pledge when my $1 pledge comes around to try to revert it to a full pledge because I didn't get a chance to play. And at almost every point where I wanted to go try to play something, I felt like I was being like elbowed out of the way by a vlog crew. And it's like all these guys, if you show them that you've got a video camera, they're like, oh, wait, clear the whole table. We've got a vlog crew. And that was frustrating. But anyway, so the main point that I really didn't get to experience this Gen Con much at all is that my dad was ill. And so my brain really wasn't in it. I met a bunch of great people at the Geek Nation Tours dinner, and I tried to put everything out of my head. My memory, which is normally bad, is awful now, but I really had a good time. I can't remember anybody's name, but I had a good time there. I do know that I was able to one Guinness and was able to kind of put it all behind me. But my dad had a procedure on Friday that was supposed to be relatively routine, and that's why I decided it was a last-minute choice whether or not I was going to go, because all this happened the week before Gen Con. But my parents told me I should go, and everybody except for my sister, who's a nurse, so I should have probably listened to her, but she was okay with it, but she was like, it's up to you. And things didn't go well with the procedure. They got extremely serious. I had to rush home. And so where I knew that I was leaving early because I wanted to be with my family no matter how things turned out, so I was leaving Saturday anyway, I ended up having to leave abruptly Friday afternoon, and a lot happened. Thankfully, my dad's okay. Hopefully he continues to recover. He's a strong old goat, so I'm sure everything's going to be fine. Hopefully, knock on wood. I can't believe I even just said that. But yeah, so it really distracted me. If you saw me and I wasn't sort of happy and friendly, I apologize. I really feel like I wasn't at my best. There was a lot of stuff going on, a lot of business contacts that I had to make at Gen Con. I know I screwed a bunch of those up. I tried to hang out a bit at the Wild West Exodus booth, which was awesome. Blew that. Cause I socially just wasn't in a healthy place. My brain just wouldn't settle down. So I wanted to get that out there and apologize to everybody that I met, at Gen Con for not really, sort of being, all there. And I wish I had, because Gen Con is awesome. It's one of the highlights of my year, definitely one of the highlights of my summer. And it just blew by, and it's nobody's fault, certainly. And I'm glad that everything, like I said, is turning out okay. But that's where my brain was. So things that I noticed that I didn't talk about in the segment that you just listened to, I totally forgot to talk about Wild West Exodus, which is sad, given my connection to Wild West Exodus. They had tables there that were ridiculously gorgeous. They had a beautiful table that really showed visually the direction of the fluff, where all the cool science fiction and space elements are being folded into the DNA of the fluff now, as opposed to sort of being added on as things develop. It's now really part of the foundation of the game and the world that you'll be playing in. So you had this awesome sci-fi. It was like Mystery Mountain. No, there was a movie in the 70s and I can't remember it at all now, but it's sort of on the outside you saw the Union forces approaching this old mesa and some aliens pouring out of some holes in the mesa, but then when you walked around the table you saw inside the mesa was this massive science fiction complex with these aliens running all over the place and some really cool special effects, and it was all lit up and shimmering and all kinds of cool stuff. They had one of their newest leader models, Nimue. Captain Nimue as opposed to Captain Nemo. They had a cosplay woman there dressed as her with her weapons and everything. That was awesome. And the booth and the presentation of the booth, they had 3D set elements that were built into the booth. It was just really, really cool. That was neat. And it was all really neat. And I saw lots of people, and I disappeared abruptly, and that was basically why. So here's me putting a period in Gen Con, and moving forward, wishing I had experienced it more, but really appreciative of everybody who made my couple days that were there good and solid. And I wanted to thank you guys and apologize to everybody again, because you're not getting nearly as much coverage of Gen Con from me anyway as I normally try to present. So that's it. That's all I've got to say on that score. So thank you for listening, and good night.
Achievement unlocked! You've made it to the end of another D6 Generation episode, the podcast whose humor has universally been acclaimed as not too horrible. Please let us know what you thought of the show by either emailing us at info@d6generation.com or by posting in our official D6G episode thread at the top of the DACA Discussions Forum on DACADACA.com. If for some inexplicable reason you actually enjoyed this show, you can help others find out about it by leaving positive reviews on iTunes. See you in 2 weeks. Thanks for listening, and happy gaming.
The theme from Total Fangirl comes from the soundtrack of The Last Night on Earth, the zombie game, courtesy of Flying Frog Productions, and is a composition of Mary Beth Magalanes.
I have nothing to say. I'm excited. I mean, as many of you longtime listeners might know, Necromunda is actually where our game group started. I mean, we all knew each other long before Necromunda, but that's where we first started to get together on a regular basis and play games that we structured into a big campaign. I fell full force for Shadow War, which basically used the same rules, but with 40K army war bands. So I'm excited. The models look crazy cool. I don't think I would have said this a month ago, but I hope that the rules are not the old Necromunda rules. I hope the rules are modified for 8th edition. I think 8th edition is very elegant. I'm enjoying it immensely. So I love the concept of a skirmish game. I love the idea of a gang that levels up, and I love the idea of these little civilians in this giant grimdark world fighting for survival. So I'm excited. Although I'm not a big fan of the Goliaths, I was a huge fan of the Escher. So one of the two starter armies or gangs is really cool. I mean, the Goliaths look really cool too in this incarnation. But I mean, let's be honest, the plastic Goliaths were some of the worst models GW ever put out. So same thing. I mean, by the time we got to Mordheim, it was more like you were sort of exhausted by a system where if you missed a game or two, or if you had a bad luck in a game or two, everybody else was just going to crush you, so you might as well not play the rest of the campaign. And we came up with all kinds of house rules on trying to mitigate that. But for the most, I mean, my favorite table that I ever built for DACA was the Mordheim table, which if you can find pictures on Facebook,
it was really cool.
It was it was a complete ruined fantasy city that had all kinds of inspiration woven through it, and a canal system that was built into it, and it was all static. The buildings moved, but the canals were all three-dimensional and silicone for water. And so I have a soft spot in my heart for it, but I don't know. I don't know how it would even fit with the way that they've brutalized the fantasy fluff. So I'm not like super against Age of Sigmar, but I'm not super for it. I don't know anything about it, so I won't talk trash about it. But
Okay, in the red shirt in the corner. Red shirt, huh?
I may or may not have backed that for $1. Yeah, I've watched all the video. I watched Rodney's watch it played video. I actually, if you guys remember the predictions episode, I believe I could be wrong and working on a false premise, and I'm not going to get the points. But I think what I said was I would only back 1 or 2 Kickstarters this year. I've already gone in one with the Mantic terrain crate, so I'm being very careful. I don't count the $1 Song of Ice and Fire pledge really as backing it because I just mainly want to have the option. But if I don't spend a lot of money at Gen Con, which I might not because I have to leave soon, I'm probably going to go home and back that for more money than I would ever actually admit to my wife.
If you don't spend a lot of money at Gen Con.
I have not spent a dime on myself so far. It's
Yeah.
the first.
What time is it? Okay, give it
Crazy.
time.
No, it's the first Thursday of Gen Con ever where I didn't buy stuff.
Should I be impressed by that?
No, I think it's sad. I find the crowds intimidating.
It is very crowded this year.
So are we ready for this awesome nameless game? Yes, sir. You get your $0 back, and we'll double it.